Chuanfeng Pavilion was smashed? Jiang Yuan's expression turned cold, and his voice instantly chilled. The shop boy, frightened by Jiang Yuan's aura, shuddered and stammered, "Why yes, young Master Jiang. I wouldn't dare lie to you." Hearing this, Jiang Xing couldn't sit still any longer. He asked anxiously, "What about Shishir? Was she hurt? Did anything happen to her?" The shop boy froze for a moment before realizing who Jiang Xing meant. He quickly shook his head, "I don't know about that young lady, sir. All I know is the shop was smashed, and Steward Luo told me to come notify young Master Jiang at once." Jiang Yuan took a deep breath, forcing down the fury in his chest. He turned to Jiang Xing and said, "Brother Jia, Chuanfeng Pavilion is in trouble. I must return immediately to see for myself." Jiang Xing was already too worried to sit still and said urgently, "Brother Jiang, I'll come with you. I can't rest easy about Shishir, and I also want to see who dares smash your shop." Jiang Yuan glanced at him, knowing full well his concern for Shishir, and nodded, "Very well. Let's go at once." The two wasted no time, hurrying quickly toward Chuanfeng Pavilion. On the surface Jiang Yuan still appeared calm, but in his mind thoughts were racing. Chuanfeng Pavilion had only just been transformed into a cloth workshop, right at the crucial opening stage, yet it was smashed already. This was definitely no accident. He had a strong feeling that a greater scheme was hidden behind this. Who could be so bold as to provoke him so openly? The two made haste, and before long they arrived outside Chuanfeng Pavilion. The sight before their eyes made their hearts sink. The originally tidy building was now in shambles. The signboard at the entrance hung askew, looking as if it might fall at any moment. The vermilion lacquer had been scratched into a mess, making the scene sting the eyes. Inside the shop was even more miserable to behold. Counters lay smashed to pieces and scattered across the floor. Fine bolts of cloth had been torn into rags, trampled and desecrated, strewn all over the ground. Decorative vases and ornaments lay shattered, shards of porcelain scattered everywhere. The air was thick with dust and a faint tang of blood. At first glance the destruction looked terrible, but on closer inspection Jiang Yuan noticed that it wasn't total. The truly important items seemed to have been deliberately spared. Most of what was destroyed were things for show. As long as money was spent, repairs could be made quickly. This discovery allowed Jiang Yuan to breathe a little easier. Meanwhile Jiang Xing rushed inside, scanning the crowd for Shishir. When he saw her standing in the corner, still shaken but clearly unharmed, his heart finally settled. He hurried over to her. "Shishir, you're safe? You weren't hurt?" Seeing Jiang Xing, the panic in her eyes softened. She shook her head gently and said in a low voice, "I'm fine. Thank you for your concern, young Master Jia." Jiang Xing looked her over carefully, confirming she bore no injuries, then exhaled in relief. Still, his face remained dark. Who would do such a thing? To act so recklessly? Jiang Yuan didn't stop to involve himself in their exchange. He went straight toward the back hall. What mattered most now was to learn exactly what had happened. Madame Luo was there, directing servants to clean up the wreckage. When she saw Jiang Yuan arrive, she hurried forward, her face carrying both apology and worry. "Young master, you've come." Her voice was low, absent of its usual charm, instead heavy with solemnity. Jiang Yuan nodded slightly, cutting straight to the point. "What happened? How did the shop end up like this?" Madame Luo sighed and recounted the events in detail. Not long after Jiang Yuan and Jiang Xing had left, several customers came in, claiming to want to buy cloth to make clothing. The clerks, as usual, greeted them warmly and brought out the finest cloth in the shop for them to choose from. But after browsing a while, the customers suddenly changed their demeanor, pointing at the fabric and loudly shouting that Chuanfeng Pavilion was selling defective goods cheap quality, deceiving buyers. The clerks refused to accept such slander, and an argument broke out. Then, without warning, the men turned violent, smashing up the shop. They struck with ferocity, breaking whatever they laid hands on, leaving the front hall in ruins in moments. Hearing the commotion, Madame Luo rushed out to stop them, but they ignored her completely, becoming even more aggressive, even attempting to lay hands on her. Fortunately, the shop's clerks were not weaklings, they fought desperately to protect her, so she was not harmed. In the chaos, someone called for the authorities. Before long, constables arrived and arrested the rioters. They had thought the matter resolved, but soon afterward the yamen released the men. Sensing something was wrong, Madame Luo sent people to secretly follow them. Those men, after leaving the yamen, boarded a carriage and drove off, their destination unknown. Hearing her account, Jiang Yuan's face grew even darker. Just as he suspected, this was no simple case. Those men, did you see who they were? What kind of background did they have? Madame Luo shook her head gravely. They were all strangers, I've never seen them before. But their manner was extravagant, and their clothes were fine silks. They didn't look like common folk. And when they smashed things, their words seemed to target us deliberately, as if they came with that purpose. She hesitated a moment before adding. Jiang Yuan's brows furrowed as he analyzed quickly. The cloth now sold at Chuanfeng Pavilion was produced by the improved looms, absolutely top quality. There was no way anyone could genuinely claim it was defective. Besides, his status as the Su family's son-in-law was now widely known in the capital. Ordinary people, even if they wished to cause trouble, would never dare so openly. What's more, the constables had dared release the culprits so easily. This clearly meant someone powerful was exerting pressure behind the scenes. To make even the capital prefecture yamen disregard the Su family's power, the mastermind must be no ordinary figure. Madame Luo, who do you think could be behind this? She thought for a moment, then slowly replied, Young master, I dare not speak rashly. But lately there are rumors. Some in the capital are not pleased with Chuanfeng Pavilion's business. Not pleased? Jiang Yuan raised a brow, gesturing for her to continue. Since we converted into a cloth shop, business has been very good. Our cloth is fine and reasonably priced. We quickly opened a market in the capital and took much business from other cloth merchants. I've heard some cloth shop owners have begun joining forces, intent on dealing with us. You mean the other cloth shops are behind this? Jiang Yuan's eyes narrowed, his tone carrying a sharp chill. Madame Luo lowered her gaze and said cautiously, It is only a suspicion. I cannot be sure. Jiang Yuan did not speak, falling into deep thought. If it really was those cloth shops stirring up trouble behind the scenes, then things would indeed become complicated. Those cloth merchants had been operating in the capital for many years, their roots entrenched deep, and they undoubtedly had powerful backers. To move against them would not be easy. However, Jiang Yuan was not someone who backed down so easily. Since they dared to provoke him, they should be prepared to pay the price. Madame Luo Yan noticed Jiang Yuan's silence, realizing he was carefully thinking through countermeasures. Inwardly, her curiosity grew. Just how would this young master deal with the matter? Ever since Jiang Yuan took over Chuanfeng House, every move he made had shocked Madame Luo Yan. First, he improved the weaving machine. Then, he decisively transformed Chuanfeng House into a cloth workshop, cutting off all associations with the brothel trade. Each of these measures revealed that this so-called decadent noble's son was not as the rumors painted him to be. She looked at Jiang Yuan's furrowed brow, her mind stirring with complicated thoughts. Should she secretly lend him a hand? With her status, finding out the mastermind behind this wouldn't be difficult. But doing so might expose her identity, and besides. Madame Luo Yan hesitated. Just as she was weighing the pros and cons, the sound of hurried footsteps came from outside. Master, a letter for you. A shop hand rushed in, panting, clutching a delicately crafted invitation. Jiang Yuan blinked in mild surprise, took the invitation, and glanced at the man with suspicion. Who delivered this? I don't know, young master. The man simply left it and said it must be handed to you personally. Jiang Yuan nodded slightly, a flicker of doubt flashing in his brows. He unsealed the envelope and drew out the letter. On the letterhead was a golden embossed emblem, precisely the insignia of the capital's largest cloth guild, Jingliang Cloth Guild. As Jiang Yuan scanned the contents, the corners of his lips curled into a cold smile. The Jingliang Cloth Guild's invitation? Madame Luo Yan leaned closer for a look, her face changing slightly. Jingliang Cloth Guild? At such a time, for them to invite you. Could it be related to our shop being smashed? A cold glint flashed in Jiang Yuan's eyes as he handed her the letter. 8 or 9 chances out of 10, it was them. Madame Luo Yan took the letter and read it carefully. Although the wording was polite. Inviting Jiang Yuan to meet that evening to discuss the development of the capital's cloth industry, between the lines was an unmistakable air of condescension, like a favor being bestowed. Upon finishing, Madame Luo Yan's anger surged. Her chest rose and fell violently, her curves trembling with fury. Out of the corner of his eye, Jiang Yuan caught the sight, and his heart wavered for a moment. This Madame Luo Yan, fair-skinned, alluring, a woman in her prime, her figure was breathtakingly rare. But what unsettled him most was her occasional subtle flirtations. Though he knew he could not indulge, she still tugged at his self-control. Such a stunning woman, why had she ended up in a place like Chuanfeng House? Perhaps she too had her own hardships. He decided he ought to look after her more in the future. Unaware of Jiang Yuan's drifting thoughts, Madame Luo Yan only grew more furious. Intolerable. The Jingliang Cloth Guild is absolutely shameless. They smashed our shop, then had the gall to send such an invitation. Their hypocrisy knows no bounds. Her bosom heaved with her indignation. Jiang Yuan pulled back his gaze, his expression calm once more, and said gravely, "Good. Since they've invited me, I'll go. Joining the guild may not be a bad thing." Madame Luo Yan froze, staring at him in disbelief. "Master, what do you mean? Join them? They clearly mean us ill. Why would you go?" Jiang Yuan smiled faintly, a spark flashing in his eyes. "Precisely because they mean us ill, I must go. In the capital's cloth industry, the Jingliang Cloth Guild reigns supreme. If we can join them, it might actually benefit our Chuanfeng Cloth Workshop's growth. Of course only if they show true sincerity." Madame Luo Yan still looked uneasy, voicing her worry, "But they smashed our shop. Who knows what they're plotting? If you go alone, won't it be dangerous?" Seeing the concern on her face, Jiang Yuan felt a faint warmth in his heart. "Don't worry. I'll be fine. But if you're worried, then come with me." At those words, Madame Luo Yan's heart leapt. She quickly nodded. "I'm willing to accompany you, master." Jiang Yuan smiled, confidence flickering in his gaze. "Good. Then let's go together and see what tricks the Jingliang Cloth Guild is playing." The Jingliang Cloth Guild stood in the most bustling part of the inner city. Its storefront was grand and imposing, befitting its position as the capital's cloth trade leader. In the spacious, bright back hall, the guild's president, Li Dihai, frowned slightly. Dressed in a brocade robe, he looked faintly uneasy. "Vice President Wang, do you think we've gone too far this time?" Li Dihai's voice carried hesitation. Before him stood a lean man with sharp triangular eyes, Vice President Wang Kuan. Wang Kuan's lips curled into a sinister smile, his narrow eyes gleaming. "President, what are you still worrying about? Opportunities like this don't come often." Li Dihai sighed, walking to the window and gazing at the bustling streets outside. "These past days, we've been buying up cloth and reselling it for double the profit. Isn't that enough? I fear if we escalate things too much, it may not bode well for our guild." Wang Kuan sneered dismissively, stepping closer. "President, you're far too cautious. I've heard that this new Chuanfeng Cloth Workshop is using weaving machines of extraordinary productivity. If we can seize one of those machines, the benefits to our guild would be immeasurable." Li Dihai turned, doubt flickering in his eyes. "You mean smashing their shop was just a ploy to force them to hand over the weaving machine?" Wang Kuan smirked smugly, lowering his voice. "Of course. If force doesn't work, we'll use trickery. First, we scare them, Make them understand who's truly in charge of this capital. When they can't withstand the pressure, they'll come crawling to us. And then, under the guise of cooperation, we'll coax the secret of that weaving machine out of them. Li Dihai frowned deeper, his unease growing. But behind Xuanfeng House stands Jiang Yuan. He is the son-in-law of the Grand General's household. If we offend him too harshly, might that not bring trouble? At this, Wang Kuan let out a cold, mocking laugh. The Grand General's son-in-law? President, you're overthinking this. He's nothing but a useless son-in-law from a declining Marquis. What influence could he possibly wield? General Su is consumed with military affairs. Do you really think he'd care about a mere cloth shop dispute? Li Dihai, upon hearing this, still looked somewhat hesitant. He shook his head and said, "Don't forget, Jiang Yuan is still a member of the Jiang Marquis estate." At the mention of Jiang Marquis estate, Wang Kuan's face revealed a hint of playful amusement. President, the Jiang Marquis estate has long since declined. By now it's nothing more than an empty shell. Besides, do you really think a place like the Jiang Marquis estate would stand up for a mere concubine-born son? And let's not forget. Who was it that gave us the idea of buying up cloth the other day? Rest assured, with that noble patron behind us, the Jiang Marquis estate absolutely won't intervene. Wang Kuan patted his chest, bowing with confidence. Seeing Wang Kuan's self-assured expression, the doubts in Li Dihai's heart seemed to dissipate somewhat. He pondered for a moment, then finally nodded. Very well. Since you're so certain, we'll follow your plan. But remember, make your move cleanly. Leave no handle for others to grasp. Upon hearing this, Wang Kuan's face broke into a conspiratorial grin. President, don't worry. Leave everything to me. I guarantee that Jiang Yuan will obediently hand over the weaving machine. By evening, the afterglow of the setting sun bathed the capital streets in a warm light. As lanterns began to shine, the ancient city took on a hazy, poetic charm. Jiang Yuan stood at the entrance of Xuanfeng Pavilion's cloth shop, his gaze falling upon Luo Yan, who had just changed her attire. Today, Luo Yan had abandoned her usual allure, instead donning a simple, elegant moon-white gown. The skirt swayed gently in the evening breeze, like willow branches under moonlight, accentuating her graceful figure and delicate skin. Though her attire was plain, it in no way concealed her mature charm. On the contrary, she exuded a natural, lotus-like elegance, pure and refined. Especially that slender waist and the fullness barely concealed beneath the thin fabric. Everything about her radiated the allure of a mature woman. Jiang Yuan kept his gaze straight, his expression calm. It was as though the beauty before him had nothing to do with him. He spoke lightly, "The time has come. Let's go." Luo Yan's beautiful eyes shimmered, her lips curving into a teasing smile. She walked gracefully toward him, leaning close enough to let her warm breath caress his ear as she murmured coquettishly, "Master, how cold you are. Do you not like me dressed this way?" Jiang Yuan subtly shifted aside, avoiding her deliberate closeness. With a helpless tone, he replied, "Don't fool around, we still have proper business to attend to." Luo Yan chuckled softly and, dropping the matter, led the way toward the carriage waiting at the roadside, her figure swaying with elegance. Jiang Yuan followed close behind, though his heart was far from tranquil. A woman as mature and enchanting as Luo Yan was undeniably captivating, especially for Jiang Yuan, who in his past life had been nothing more than a single, bookish engineer. Her intentional teasing was enough to stir his thoughts, make his heart restless. But he knew this was not the time for such distractions. This trip to Jingliang Cloth House was bound to be anything but simple. The two boarded the carriage one after the other. The compartment was not large, and as the carriage began to sway gently, the space between them seemed all the closer. Luo Yan leaned toward him, whether intentionally or not. The faint fragrance of her perfume kept drifting into Jiang Yuan's nose. "Master, why so silent today? Are you still troubled over the incident at the shop?" Her voice was low and velvety, carrying both softness and a hint of concern. Jiang Yuan closed his eyes, suppressing the turmoil in his mind. Feigning indifference, he said calmly, it was a trivial matter not enough to trouble me. I'm merely considering what Jingliang Cloth House's true motive might be. No matter what their motive is, we have nothing to fear. At worst, we hire a few hundred strong men. Whoever dares cause trouble, we'll just beat them down. As she said this, Luo Yan swung her delicate fist in mock fierceness. At that exact moment, the carriage jolted, making her figure bounce enticingly, her curves even more pronounced. A rush of heat shot straight to Jiang Yuan's head. He quickly turned his gaze out the window, forcing composure. That's no lasting solution. A thief may steal for 1,000 days, but no one can guard against theft for 1,000 days. Young master is not old in years, yet you see matters with surprising clarity. Luo Yan gave him a peculiar glance, her body unconsciously edging closer still, nearly brushing against his. Her warm breath tickled his ear as she whispered, "Even so, I can't help but feel. Master is a little too serious. It hardly seems real." Jiang Yuan felt heat spread across his whole body. Her fragrance clung to him like a drug, endlessly testing his self-control. Taking a deep breath, he steadied himself. "Miss Luo, enough jesting. Jingliang Cloth House is just ahead." "So soon already?" Luo Yan gave a soft exclamation, only now noticing that the carriage had stopped. She sighed with faint disappointment. "And here I thought I might chat with Master a while longer." With that, she gracefully hopped down from the carriage, her movements light yet mesmerizing. "Master, since we've arrived, come quickly. Business first." Suppressing the fire within him, Jiang Yuan steadied himself before stepping out. Looking up, he saw a grand, imposing structure none other than Jingliang Cloth House. The vermilion gate tower stood tall, adorned with ornate carvings and painted beams. 2 stone lions flanked the entrance, fierce and majestic, proclaiming its dominance over the capital's cloth trade. Above the gate, for bold characters, Jingliang Cloth House glowed resplendently under the lantern light, exuding commanding prestige. Jiang Yuan drew in a deep breath and strode toward the entrance. At the doorway, a young attendant, seeing their fine attire, hurried forward to greet them. "Honored guests, are you here to purchase cloth?" "We are here for an appointment." Jiang Yuan of Chuanfeng Pavilion, Jiang Yuan said evenly. The attendant blinked, then quickly realized, switching to a respectful smile. "So it is young Master Jiang. Forgive my poor eyesight. The president has long been waiting inside. Please, follow me." He led them through the front hall, around several winding corridors, until they arrived at a quiet courtyard. At its center stood a bright, spacious hall, the cloth house's inner chamber. The attendant brought them to the doorway, bowing. "Master Jiang, madam, please wait a moment. I will go announce your arrival." Jiang Yuan and Luo Yan stepped inside, taking in their surroundings. The hall was elegantly furnished, landscape paintings on the walls, redwood chairs and tables, a tea set of fine porcelain resting on the table. The faint aroma of tea lingered in the air. Yet for all its refinement, the hall was empty, no host to be seen, only steaming tea rising in silence. Luo Yan frowned slightly, displeasure flickering across her face. What an air of arrogance Jingliang Cloth House puts on. Inviting us here, yet not a soul in sight. Just then, the attendant reappeared, still wearing that deferential smile. "Master Jiang, Madam the President is currently occupied with urgent business. He asks that you wait a moment. He will be here shortly." Lady Luo Yan's brows furrowed tightly. She was about to say something, but Jiang Yuan raised his hand to stop her. "No rush. Since we've come, waiting a little longer won't hurt." As he spoke, Jiang Yuan picked up the teacup from the table and took a light sip. "Just as well I can taste the tea of this fine cloth guild, see how it measures up." Seeing this, Lady Luo Yan, though still unhappy, could only suppress her temper and sit back down. Her expression, however, remained sour. Meanwhile, in the room next to the inner hall, Li Dihai and Wang Kuan sat opposite each other, but the atmosphere here was entirely different from the calm in the hall. "Vice President Wang, it's already been half an hour. Shouldn't we go meet this Jiang Yuan?" Li Dihai held his teacup, a trace of unease in his tone. Wang Kuan, however, looked completely at ease. He raised his cup, blew on it lightly, and said leisurely, "No need to rush, President. Making him wait will do him good. Jiang Yuan is nothing more than the bastard son of a Marquis house. Men like him care most about appearances. The longer we keep him waiting, the more he'll think us unfathomable. Only this way will he grow cautious, not daring to act rashly." This. Li Dihai still looked hesitant. But won't this be going too far? After all, he is the son-in-law of the great general's household. President, why bring that up again? Wang Kuan set down his cup, his face showing impatience. Our goal is the weaving machine, not truly to make an enemy of him. Once he's had a taste of hardship, he'll naturally behave. Li Dihai sighed, saying nothing further. Wang Kuan, seeing this, felt secretly pleased. He went on, "Rest assured, President. Even if we offend Jiang Yuan, the Marquis house won't stick its neck out for him. Besides, we have a powerful patron behind us. What's there to fear?" Hearing this, Li Dihai's unease eased somewhat. He took a sip of tea and said no more. Time ticked by, and soon, another half-hour passed. Inside the hall, Lady Luo Yan could no longer sit still. She stood and said to Jiang Yuan, "Master, this fine cloth guild is clearly making things difficult for us. What are we waiting for? Why don't we just leave?" But Jiang Yuan remained calm as ever. Setting his cup down, he said slowly, "Since we're here, we should at least meet them once." But Lady Luo Yan wanted to argue, but Jiang Yuan cut her off. Patience. Perhaps the president truly has important matters to attend to. Waiting a little longer won't hurt. Seeing Jiang Yuan so insistent, she reluctantly sat back down, though her face was already showing anger. A little later, Lady Luo Yan finally lost her temper altogether. She shot up from her seat. "No, this won't do. I must ask what exactly they mean by this." She was about to storm out, but Jiang Yuan reached out to stop her, saying, "If the president is occupied, then let's not disturb him." With that, Jiang Yuan also stood, clearly intending to leave. Lady Luo Yan was stunned. She hadn't expected Jiang Yuan to take the initiative to walk away. Though puzzled, she followed him. Just then, the inner hall door swung open. Li Dihai and Wang Kuan entered one after the other. "Ah, young Master Jiang, terribly sorry to have kept you waiting." Li Dihai hurried forward with a smile plastered on his face. "Just now, I was in the middle of discussing urgent matters with Vice President Wang. I couldn't get away, please forgive me." Jiang Yuan paused, turned back, and looked at Li Dihai with a faint smile. "President, you're too polite. One who doesn't know is not guilty. Since you were occupied, I won't disturb you further. Let us meet another day." Seeing Jiang Yuan about to leave, Li Dihai quickly said, "Why, young Master Jiang, what are you saying? Your visit to the Fine Cloth Guild is our great honor. How could we let you come here for nothing? Someone. Bring tea, our finest tea." He turned and ordered the servants. Jiang Yuan, seeing this, could hardly insist on leaving, so he sat down again. Li Dihai also sat, smiling warmly as he spoke, "Young Master Jiang, the main reason I invited you today was to discuss the development of the cloth trade here in the capital." Jiang Yuan raised an eyebrow, uncertain of their intentions, and asked in a steady voice, "What wisdom does the president wish to share?" "Not wisdom, merely some thoughts I'd like to exchange with you," Li Dihai said, glancing toward Wang Kuan. Wang Kuan understood, cleared his throat, and spoke, "Young Master Jiang, I hear you've converted the Chuanfang Pavilion into a cloth shop. Is this true?" Jiang Yuan nodded lightly, sipping his tea. "It is." "Then I wonder, did you report this to our Fine Cloth Guild?" Wang Kuan pressed, his tone carrying a hint of interrogation. "Report?" At this, Lady Luo Yan immediately bristled. "Your Fine Cloth Guild isn't the government. Why should we report to you when opening a shop?" Wang Kuan sneered, his voice still outwardly respectful but laced with hardness. "Lady Luo Yan, you are mistaken. Though not the government, the Fine Cloth Guild is the head of the capital's cloth trade. All who wish to open shops here must report to us. This is the rule. Rule? Lady Luo Yan laughed coldly, eyes flashing. I've never heard of such a rule. What nonsense is this? This is the rule of the capital's cloth trade. Wang Kuan's voice rose. His triangular eyes swept over Luo Yan's shapely figure with ill intent. Lady Luo, though you may manage Chuanfang Pavilion, it seems you don't understand the affairs of the cloth trade very well. You. Lady Luo Yan flushed red, choked by his words. Seeing this, Jiang Yuan gently patted her hand, signaling her to calm down. Then he turned to Wang Kuan and said evenly, Vice President Wang, I respect the Fine Cloth Guild as the leader of the capital's trade. That is why I agreed to come here. But that does not mean I must follow your so-called rules. The Chuanfang cloth shop is my property. I will manage it as I see fit. It is not for your Fine Cloth Guild to meddle in. Young Master Jiang, what do you mean by this? Wang Kuan's face darkened at once. He hadn't expected Jiang Yuan to be so forceful. As the vice president of the Fine Cloth Guild, he had met countless nobles and wealthy men. Every single one had treated him with deference when joining the guild. Yet this Jiang Yuan dared speak so arrogantly it was outrageous. Young Master Jiang, let me speak plainly, every trade has its rules. If you wish to do business in the capital peacefully, you had best follow the rules of the cloth trade. Do you understand? Rules? Jiang Yuan sneered inwardly. He held in his hands a loom that could change the entire textile industry. What rules was he supposed to follow? Still, the Jingliang Cloth Guild controlled massive sales channels. If a cooperation could be reached, it would be a win-win situation and save him many future troubles. That was, in fact, his main reason for coming here today. Of course, whether or not cooperation would work depended entirely on how sincere the Jingliang Cloth Guild was willing to be. After a moment's thought, Jiang Yuan suddenly revealed a faint smile. Without rules, nothing can be accomplished. That much, I understand. Hearing this, Wang Kuan's expression brightened. But before he could speak, Jiang Yuan continued, however, if those rules are meant to target us at Chuanfang Pavilion, then I will never agree. To tell you the truth, the reason I came today is precisely because I do wish to cooperate with the Jingliang Cloth Guild. I just don't know how the two presidents here view the matter. Li Dihai was taken aback. He hadn't expected Jiang Yuan to bring up cooperation on his own initiative. This was somewhat different from their original plan. He was just about to say something when Wang Kuan cut him off. Oh? Cooperation? Wang Kuan feigned surprise, arching his brows. He lifted his teacup, took a slow sip, and then spoke in a deliberately leisurely tone. It's good that young Master Jiang thinks this way. It seems that although the Jiang Marquis has fallen, at least you still know how to abide by rules. We of Jingliang Cloth Guild, as the leading force in the capital's textile industry, are of course willing to cooperate with a young talent such as yourself. His tone carried the airs of an elder, his words half admonition, half patronizing. However, cooperation also requires rules. Not just any stray cat or dog can join us at will. If Chuanfang Pavilion wishes to join Jingliang Cloth Guild, it isn't impossible. But two conditions must be met. Jiang Yuan listened to Wang Kuan's words, sneering inwardly. This Wang Kuan really took himself far too seriously. Still, his face betrayed no emotion as he asked calmly, Oh? And what are those two conditions? Before coming, Jiang Yuan had already learned from Madame Luo Yan that in order to monopolize the capital's textile trade, Jingliang Cloth Guild had set down many tyrannical clauses. The most important of these was taking a 20% cut of profits. But these so-called two conditions he had never heard of before. The first condition, Wang Kuan raised one finger, speaking slowly, is that Chuanfang Pavilion must hand over exclusive distribution rights for all of its cloth to Jingliang Cloth Guild. As for the second condition, those weaving machines of yours must also be handed over to Jingliang Cloth Guild. Of course, we won't let young Master Jiang suffer. We'll pay what should be paid, not a coin less. As for profit-sharing BR rules, 50% will suffice. With a grand flourish of his hand, he looked as though Jiang Yuan were already in his pocket. What? 50%? Madame Luo Yan could no longer contain herself. She shot to her feet, her beautiful eyes round with fury as she glared at Wang Kuan. This is robbery. You call this cooperation? This is nothing but a contract of servitude. Impudence. Wang Kuan's face darkened. He slammed the table hard. Madame Luo Yan, mind your status. This is the Jingliang Cloth Guild, not your Chuanfeng Pavilion. How dare a mere courtesan raise her voice here? You. Madame Luo Yan trembled with rage, pointing at him, but words failed to come out. Heh, Madame Luo, don't be angry. Seeing this, Wang Kuan's lips curled in smug amusement. We're doing this for your own good. Think about it. Chuanfeng Pavilion is nothing but a brothel. What business have you meddling in textiles? Wouldn't it be better to hand over these troublesome matters to us at Jingliang Cloth Guild? That way, you can enjoy peace of mind. As for a 50% cut, that's not excessive at all. After all, we're the ones shouldering the risks. All you need to do is sit back and reap the rewards. What's wrong with that? Nonsense. Madame Luo Yan trembled all over with fury, her killing intent rising to the point that she almost wanted to slap this detestable man to death on the spot. This is nothing but taking advantage of others' peril. Madame Luo, you can't put it that way. Wang Kuan shook his head with mock helplessness. We're simply following the rules. If you're unwilling, we won't force you. However, I'll give you a piece of advice. If you offend us at Jingliang Cloth Guild, then Chuanfeng Pavilion can forget about surviving in the capital. You dare threaten us? A cold light flashed in Madame Luo Yan's eyes. And what if I am threatening you? Wang Kuan sneered, his voice brimming with arrogance. To speak plainly, from today onward, Chuanfeng Pavilion won't be able to buy even a single strand of silk or a fiber of hemp. No one in the capital will sell you raw materials. You may as well wait for your doors to close. After declaring this, Wang Kuan lifted his teacup again and took a slow sip, his expression full of smug certainty. You people. Madame Luo Yan was so furious she could hardly speak. She hadn't expected the Jingliang Cloth Guild to be so domineering, seeking to monopolize the entire supply of raw materials in the capital. Vice President Wang, don't you think your words are going too far? At last, Jiang Yuan spoke. His gaze fell on Wang Kuan, his eyes calm. But his tone carried an unmistakable weight of authority. Oh? Wang Kuan looked at Jiang Yuan with contempt. What could this illegitimate young wastrel possibly say? Surely he only wanted to haggle for more silver. But Wang Kuan had long been prepared. He gave a sinister smile. So what young Master Jiang means is you're dissatisfied with the conditions we've offered. In that case, please see yourself out. He raised his teacup, making a clear gesture of dismissal. Jiang Yuan's expression remained calm as his gaze turned toward Li Dihai, seated at the head. President Li, I only have one question. Does Vice President Wang's attitude represent the stance of the entire Jingliang Cloth Guild? At these words, Wang Kuan's face sank like thunder. Young Master Jiang, what do you mean? Are you suggesting he was cut off mid-sentence as Li Dihai raised his hand? For some reason, despite being a seasoned merchant, Li Dihai had the distinct feeling that if they antagonized this young man before them, disaster would surely follow. Erring on the side of caution, he thought it best not to drive the youth into a corner. After a brief hesitation, he finally spoke, Young Master Jiang, it would be a good thing if you were willing to join us at Jingliang Cloth Guild. For the sake of the great general's household, we can reduce our cut to 40%. You need not trouble yourself with anything else, and you'll still receive 60% of the profits. Surely that's a fair deal. Would young Master Jiang be satisfied with such terms? Wang Kuan was momentarily stunned, but then he understood Li Dihai's intention. He quickly chimed in, Young Master Jiang, a wise man knows when to quit while he's ahead. our president has already shown the greatest sincerity. You shouldn't need me to teach you what to do next, should you? After hearing Wang Kuan's words, the corners of Jiang Yuan's lips lifted slightly, revealing a cold smile. What sincerity? This was nothing but blatant robbery. Since that was the case, there was no need to humor them any further. No deal, then. Paths that diverge cannot be walked together. Looks like we have nothing more to discuss. With that, he turned around and left without the slightest hesitation. Lady Luo Yan followed closely behind, glaring fiercely at Wang Kuan before spitting out, "Bah! What damned rules! You black-hearted bastard!" Wang Kuan watched Jiang Yuan and Luo Yan leave, his face ashen, his body trembling with rage. Good. 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 Jiang Yuan, you've got guts. If you don't join the Fine Fabrics Guild, I'll make sure your Chuanfeng pavilion won't survive a day in the capital. Li Dihai frowned slightly as he looked at the fuming Wang Kuan. Vice President Wang, why get so worked up? If a deal fails, there's still room for courtesy. Wang Kuan gave a cold snort, jabbing a finger toward the doorway. Courtesy? With someone so ungrateful, what courtesy is there to speak of? Just wait till I'll make him learn the price of offending the Fine Fabrics Guild. Jiang Yuan and Lady Luo Yan boarded the carriage. The wheels clattered as it rolled away from the guild. Lady Luo Yan was still seething, her pretty face flushed red. Master, we're just leaving like this? Are we really going to let them trample us? Jiang Yuan leaned back in the carriage, eyes closed in repose, but with the faintest trace of a smile at the corner of his lips. Don't worry. Their glory won't last long. The Fine Fabrics Guild? Humph, nothing impressive at all. The carriage rolled leisurely down Vermilion Bird Avenue, amidst the bustling throngs. Suddenly, as they reached a busy intersection, whoa! The driver yanked hard on the reins, and the carriage jolted to a halt. What happened? Lady Luo Yan asked, puzzled. Jiang Yuan opened his eyes and glanced out the window. Ahead, the street had erupted in noise and commotion. Then, all at once, a small figure shot forward like an arrow loosed from a bowstrate toward their carriage. Bang! The carriage door was flung open with force, and the figure tumbled inside. Jiang Yuan's reflexes were caught the intruder in his arms. What landed in his grasp was soft and delicate, carrying with it the faint fragrance of a young maiden. Lowering his gaze, he saw it was a girl of 17 or 18. She wore a fitted set of martial attire, her brows carrying a heroic edge. With a touch of makeup, her features looked all the more fresh and striking. But at this moment, her expression was panicked, breath uneven, her chest rising and falling rapidly. Pressed tightly against Jiang Yuan, her softness startled him slightly. Instinctively, he noted him, rather flat. Compared to Lady Luo Yan's figure, there was definitely a gap. He quickly steadied his thoughts, about to ask a question, but the girl suddenly pressed a slender finger against his lips, her eyes winking playfully. Shh, don't speak. Outside the carriage came a chorus of furious shouts. Damn girl. You run pretty fast. Don't let her get away. After her. She just ran this way. Where'd she go? Where is she? The sound of hurried footsteps grew closer and closer. The girl trembled, clinging even tighter to Jiang Yuan's chest, her whole body tense with fear. Jiang Yuan sighed inwardly as he felt the warmth in his arms. What was this now? A hero rescuing a maiden? Or just beauty falling into his lap? He glanced at Lady Luo Yan, who was staring in confusion, just as stunned by the sudden turn of events. The voices outside drew nearer, almost upon the carriage. The girl clutched his clothes more tightly. Her eyes filled with pleading. Jiang Yuan's mind turned. He understood at once what she wanted. A faintly amused smile played on his lips. Very well, then lend her a hand. Ahem. He deliberately cleared his throat, raising his voice so it carried outside the carriage. Who dares make such a racket? Do you not know what crime it is to block the Marquis' carriage? The name of the Marquis' household was meant to intimidate. As expected, at the mention of Marquis, the noise outside faltered. A doubtful voice spoke, Is this Jiang Marquis' carriage? Jiang Yuan gave a cold laugh, his tone even more arrogant. Humph. Since you know, why aren't you groveling off already? He played the role to perfection, his voice dripping with the haughty swagger of a spoiled young master. Outside, the pursuers hesitated, panic creeping into their tone. A misunderstanding. A misunderstanding. So it's the Jiang Marquis' carriage our eyes were blind, we didn't recognize. Please forgive us, young master. We'll leave. We'll leave right away. Moments later, their footsteps scattered, fading into the distance. Silence returned outside, broken only by the cautious voice of the driver. Young master, are you all right now? Shall we continue? Jiang Yuan answered calmly, go on. The driver, relieved, snapped the reins and the carriage rolled forward again. Only when they had gone some distance did the girl finally exhale a long breath, her taut body relaxing. Blushing, she pushed herself upright from Jiang Yuan's arms. Her cheeks red as ripe apples, an utterly charming sight. Thank you, young master, for saving my life. She cupped her fists in gratitude, her clear voice ringing with sincerity. Jiang Yuan waved his hand dismissively. It was nothing, just a small favor. No need to dwell on it. He studied the girl closely, curiosity stirring. With such agility, and the nerve to cause a stir in the middle of the street, she clearly wasn't from an ordinary household. I wonder, young lady, who are you? And why were those men chasing you? The girl hesitated, as though reluctant to explain. But remembering how Jiang Yuan had helped her, she finally spoke the truth. I am Li Miaoshuang. As for those men, they're loan sharks. I stole their silver. Stole silver? Lady Luo Yan exclaimed in shock. Li Miaoshuang's cheeks flushed, and she explained in embarrassment, I used it to share among the poor in the city. Those usurers are vile men, feeding off the people's suffering. I couldn't stand to watch them bully the helpless. Her voice trailed lower and lower, as if even she knew theft was a dubious act. Jiang Yuan's eyes, however, gleamed with admiration. So this girl had a heart full of justice and courage. I see. A righteous spirit indeed worthy of respect. Li Miaoshuang's blush deepened, and she waved her hands. Young master flatters me. I only did what I couldn't bear not to do. Then she remembered just moments ago, he had claimed to be from the Marquis' household. By the way, you said you were of the Marquis' household. May I ask who exactly you are? Jiang Yuan smiled faintly and said, I am Jiang Yuan, the illegitimate son of Marquis Zhang's household. Jiang Yuan? Li Miaoshuang blinked, the name striking a chord of familiarity. A moment later, her eyes widened in sudden realization. You read that son-in-law of the great general's family? The lecher who bought out an entire brothel? Cough, cough. A somewhat awkward smile appeared on Jiang Yuan's face. He hadn't expected that his reputation had already become so infamous. Fortunately, old General Su and Su Muying were not pedantic people. Otherwise, his situation would indeed have been troublesome. Off to the side, Madame Luo Yan covered her mouth and laughed coquettishly when she heard this. With a glance full of charm, she teased Jiang Yuan, so it turns out master's intentions are so impure. This concubine must be more careful in the future. Luo Yan, don't make trouble. Jiang Yuan shook his head helplessly. Madame Luo Yan giggled softly, then restrained her playful demeanor. Not far away, Li Miaoshuang still had not completely faded from the blush on her face. She looked at Jiang Yuan with a hint of apology in her eyes. Master Jiang, I was reckless just now. She cupped her hands once again, her posture more respectful than before. I had heard much of your name and misunderstood. I beg your forgiveness. Jiang Yuan waved his hand, signaling she need not mind. No matter. Hearing is false, seeing is believing. As long as the young lady can distinguish right from wrong, that is enough. Li Miaoshuang looked at him gratefully, her tone earnest. Sir, for your righteous help, I am deeply grateful. Should you ever need my assistance in the future, you need only come to Jingliang Cloth House to find me. Jiang Yuan's heart stirred slightly when he heard this. So, Li Miaoshuang was from Jingliang Cloth House? If that were the case, perhaps in the future he could use this connection to collaborate with them. After all, they already held mature sales channels very attractive indeed. But the premise of cooperation was having the strength. The pressing matter now was still the raw materials. If he remembered correctly, in his past life, Qinghe village outside the capital grew cotton. Yet the villagers there did not know it could be used for weaving. If he could control Qinghe village's cotton, he would naturally have no fear of threats from Jingliang Cloth House. Thinking this through, Jiang Yuan said, "Thank you for your kind offer, but as for matters of Jingliang Cloth House, I have my own measure." "Your goodwill, Miss Li, I shall remember." Seeing Jiang Yuan say this, Li Miaoshuang did not insist further. She removed a jade pendant from her waist and handed it to him. "Sir, please accept this jade pendant. Should you ever need assistance, bring this to Jingliang Cloth House to find me. I will do everything in my power." Jiang Yuan examined the pendant. Its texture was warm and lustrous, its carving exquisite, clearly no ordinary object. After some hesitation, he accepted it. "In that case, I shall obey rather than decline." "Thank you, Miss Li." Li Miaoshuang smiled when she saw him accept it. "You are too polite. It is I who should be thanking you. Were it not for your righteous aid, I would have fallen into the hands of those scoundrels today. Sir, until we meet again." She cupped her hands once more, then decisively turned and left. As Jiang Yuan watched her departing figure, Madame Luo Yan put away her smile and asked curiously, "Master, why not use this chance to have Li Miaoshuang pressure Jingliang Cloth House into submission? With her identity, surely they would be concerned." Jiang Yuan shook his head, his gaze deep. "No need. Jingliang Cloth House is not worth me going to such lengths. Even if they are forced into submission, it would only be a temporary measure. To truly solve the raw material problem, I must find another path." Still puzzled, Madame Luo Yan pressed further, "Another path? What does Master plan to do? Without raw materials, won't our weaving workshop be forced to stop?" The corner of Jiang Yuan's lips curved into a mysterious smile. "Don't worry. I already have arrangements. Just wait and watch the show." The carriage slowly returned to the Marquis estate. Just as they reached the gates, a sharp and mocking voice rang out. "Well, if it isn't the eldest young master of the Marquis household? Why so downcast? Where did you stumble this time?" Jiang Yuan frowned slightly and looked up. He saw Jiang Xing standing there with a few lackeys, his face full of gloating amusement. "Jiang Yuan, I heard you went to Jingliang Cloth House today?" Strutting forward arrogantly, Jiang Xing looked him up and down. "So? Is your cloth workshop unable to keep going?" "Ha ha ha, I knew it. You're just a concubine's son, and you actually think you're somebody?" The more he spoke, the prouder he became, his laughter even more grating. "This time your workshop fails, you must have lost a fortune." Jiang Yuan gave him a sidelong glance. Too lazy to argue, he simply admitted, "Yes, lost big. Lost so much that now I only have a cold 300,000 taels left in my small courtyard." The moment Jiang Xing heard this, he nearly ground his teeth to dust. 300,000 taels. He had never seen that much money in his life. And this so-called useless brother dared say he had lost big? Silver? What use is silver? Forcing down his jealousy, Jiang Xing feigned disdain. "Without raw materials, what will you weave with? Silver? Those weaving machines of yours are nothing but scrap iron. Just wait, soon your Chuanfang building will shut its doors for good." Looking at Jiang Xing's smug, petty face, Jiang Yuan sneered inwardly. Shut down? Impossible. He already had a plan. Qinghe village's cotton was his ace. But now was not the time to reveal it to Jiang Xing. He wanted to see just how long Jiang Xing could stay smug. At that moment, one of Jiang Xing's lackeys suddenly rushed over in panic. Young master! Young master! Bad news! Panting heavily, the lackey stammered out. What is it, flustering around like that? Jiang Xing frowned impatiently. It's Miss Lu. Miss Lu is here. Lu Jiying? Jiang Xing froze, then looked puzzled. What is she doing here? She's being chased. They say her younger brother sold her. The lackey stammered with fear. What? Jiang Xing's eyes widened, utterly shocked. What did you say? Say it again. Miss Lu's brother sold her off. The lackey repeated with difficulty. Jiang Xing's face instantly darkened like iron. He slapped his thigh and roared, "Damn that bastard! How dare he do such a thing? Where does that leave my face? Go. Let's see for ourselves." Furious, Jiang Xing stormed off with his lackeys. Jiang Yuan followed as well. He wanted to see what kind of trouble Lu Jiying had gotten into now. At the gates, they saw Lu Jiying surrounded by a group of thugs. The men looked fierce and brutish. At their head was a burly fellow with a face full of scars. Lu Jiying, where do you think you're running? Your brother already sold you to our young master. You're ours now. Be smart and come quietly. Lu Jiying's face was pale, her eyes full of fear. She clutched her clothes tightly, her body trembling. You're lying. She forced herself to speak loudly despite her fear. My brother would never sell me. You're slandering me. Slandering? The burly man sneered, pulling out a piece of paper from his robe. White paper and black ink, clearly written. Your brother personally signed and pressed his seal. How can this be false? He owed our young master 500 taels. Since he couldn't repay, he gave you in pledge. You are our young master's woman now. Presumptuous. Jiang Xing roared and strode forward, planting himself in front of Lu Jiying. Although furious at the antics of Lu's younger brother, Lu Jiying was still his fiancé. How could he allow outsiders to stir up trouble at the gates of the Marquis Zhang's residence? The moment Lu Jiying saw him, she rushed forward in tears, clutching at his sleeve. With sobs and snot, she cried pitifully, "Young Master Jiang, save me. They're all bad men." Her choked voice, coupled with her fragile demeanor, was enough to melt hearts. She clung tightly to Jiang Xing's arm like a drowning person clutching a straw. Jiang Xing's heart softened, protective instinct surged within him. He drew in a deep breath, suppressing his fury, and glared at the rough men. Who are you people, daring to cause havoc before the Marquis Zhang's gate? The leader of the group looked Jiang Xing up and down, his eyes flashing with scorn. So what if it's the Marquis Zhang's estate? Debts must be repaid. That's only natural. We of the Miaoyin Pavilion always handle things this way. The man's voice was coarse and domineering, showing not the slightest respect for Jiang Xing. Jiang Xing's heart trembled. As expected, the Miaoyin Pavilion was not to be trifled with. He had heard the name before. Rumor had it they were backed by the Duke's household. If they were truly offended, not even the Marquis Zhang's estate could withstand the fallout. He forced down his anger, trying to keep his tone calm. How do I know this deed of sale is genuine? What if you forged it? The man sneered and waved his hand. Bring him up. Two lackeys shoved forward a trembling young boy. The boy's face was pale as paper, his body shaking violently. Clearly, he had been terrified half to death. Second brother. Lu Jiying cried out, hurrying to support him. Erneng, are you all right? Did they hurt you? Jiang Xing took a closer look. The boy was indeed Lu Jiying's younger brother, Lu Erneng. The moment Lu Erneng saw his sister, he burst into sobs. Sister! I've wronged you. I've wronged you. They were going to cut off my hand. I had no choice. His wailing was gut-wrenching, hoarse with despair. Lu Jiying's heart broke at the sight. She quickly comforted him. It's all right, little brother, your sister forgives you. I don't blame you. Jiang Xing's blood pressure spiked at her words. These Lu siblings, one more ridiculous than the other. Grinding his teeth, he snapped, Lu earning. Well done. You actually sold your own sister. Do you have any idea what shame you brought upon our Marquis Zhang's estate? Lu earning only cried harder, babbling apologies. Brother-in-law, I was wrong. I truly was wrong. Please, save my sister. I swear I'll change. Looking at Lu Earning's pathetic state, Jiang Xing trembled with rage. He wanted nothing more than to kick this useless fool to death. But with so many people watching, he could not. Taking a deep breath, he suppressed his anger and turned to the leader of the thugs. Fine. How much? The man raised 5 fingers. 500 taels. Jiang Xing clenched his jaw, pulled out a stack of silver notes, and shoved them forward. Here's 500 taels. Count it. The man took his time checking the notes, then nodded with satisfaction. Smart lad. He tossed over the deed of sale and swaggered off with his men. Jiang Xing caught the paper, glanced at it once, and immediately tore it to shreds. Turning back to Lu Jing and her brother, he swallowed his fury. It's over. From now on, you had best behave yourselves. The siblings immediately dropped to their knees, kowtowing in gratitude. Thank you, young Master Jiang. Thank you. We will never forget your great kindness. Watching their groveling, Jiang Xing only felt more irritable. He waved his hand impatiently. Enough. Stop embarrassing yourselves here. Get inside. As he said it, his mood grew even heavier. He had chosen to ally with the Lu family, so why did it feel like he had jumped into a pit of fire? No matter. It was just a bit of silver, he mustn't dwell on it. Soon, he would be the top-ranked scholar, rising to high office. When that day came, Jiang Yuan would be the unlucky one. So Jiang Xing tried to reassure himself. But just then, from the corner of his eye, he spotted Jiang Yuan standing nearby, arms crossed, wearing the expression of a man enjoying the show. Rage boiled over. Jiang Xing jabbed a finger at him and bellowed, Jiang Yuan. What are you laughing at? You still have the face to laugh. If not for you, would I have married this jinx? Look at the mess you've made. Jiang Yuan looked innocent. What's this got to do with me? You were the one who insisted on swapping marriages. I never forced you. Besides, isn't Miss Lu gentle, virtuous, and well-educated? What's wrong with that? He deliberately emphasized the words gentle, virtuous, well-educated, dripping with mockery. Jiang Xing almost coughed up blood. You. He pointed, sputtering, but no words came. Finally, he stormed, fine. One day, you'll realize how foolish your choice truly was. Cursing under his breath, he stomped back to his quarters in a fury. Jiang Yuan merely treated it as a farce, utterly unbothered. You picked Lu Jing? Then just wait, your days of suffering have only begun. Collecting his thoughts, Jiang Yuan returned to his small courtyard. Since negotiations with the Fine Cloth Guild had collapsed, he needed to make new plans. For now, cotton from Qinghe village could still serve as raw supply. But if troublemakers kept barging into the Chuanfang pavilion every few days, business would grind to a halt. The priority now was to hire reliable guards at the very least to keep trade running smoothly. Yet, where could he find dependable fighters? Jiang Yuan frowned in thought. Moments later, inspiration struck, and his gloom cleared. Right, how could he have forgotten the Tiandi society? As long as one paid enough silver, they would even dare to take a contract on the emperor himself. Unstable at times, yes, but still the best option available. He had dealt with them in his previous life too. The organization was shrouded in mystery. Even after an assassination attempt on the emperor, the furious monarch still failed to eradicate them. And now, silver was the one thing Jiang Yuan had in abundance. If he could hire the Tiandi society, it might just work. With that thought, he waved his hand. Rower, come with me, we're heading out. Outside the capital city, dust swirled along the streets, forming a sharp contrast with the bustling prosperity within the inner city. Near the city gate stood a shabby little tea house, lonely and unremarkable. A few worn-out tables and chairs were scattered about casually. The customers were mostly laborers, porters, and weary traveling merchants. They would rest here, drink a bowl of coarse tea, catch their breath, and continue their journey. Jiang Yuan brought Jiang Rower to this tea house. Master, are you sure we came to the right place? Rower looked around, her delicate brows furrowed. Clearly, she wasn't used to such an environment. Her clothing, though not silk and satin, was far better than the common folk here. Here. Can we really hire top-class guards for Chuanfeng House? Jiang Yuan scratched his head, feeling a little uncertain himself. In his past life, he had only limited knowledge of the Tiandi society. How exactly to approach them, he wasn't sure. But for now, with no better option, he could only try his luck. So he forced a confident smile and said, "Don't worry, Rower. I know what I'm doing. Since we're already here, let's sit and rest a while." They chose an empty table and sat down. The tea house's proprietress was an elderly woman, well past 50. Her face was wrinkled, yet faint traces of past beauty could still be seen. She shuffled over slowly, forcing a small smile. "What will you have, guests?" Her voice was raspy, laced with a thick local accent. "A pot of hot tea and 2 servings of snacks." Jiang Yuan glanced at a nearby table and ordered. The old woman answered faintly and turned away to prepare the tea. Meanwhile, Jiang Yuan's eyes swept around the tea house. The customers here looked like ordinary folk, but a few of them carried an unusual aura. Several men appeared to be chatting idly, yet their eyes frequently darted toward the city gate, as if watching for something. Another man sat alone in a dark corner, face grim. His hand never left the hilt of the knife at his waist. Jiang Yuan's heart stirred, seemed he hadn't come to the wrong place after all. "Guests, your tea." The old woman returned, placing the pot and bowls on the table. Jiang Yuan thanked her, lifted a bowl, blew on it lightly, and took a sip. The tea was coarse, carrying a bitter taste, but in the sweltering heat, it had a certain refreshing quality. He set down the bowl, looked at the proprietress, and asked directly, "Boss lady, I want to ask you something. Do you know where I can hire some skilled guards?" The old woman froze for a moment. She lifted her head and gave Jiang Yuan a surprised look, but quickly masked it with calm. "You jest, young master. This shabby place of ours has no such skilled guards. Only poor laborers trying to make a living." Jiang Yuan smiled faintly, undeterred. From his robe, he drew out a 100-tael banknote and laid it gently on the table. "Boss lady, I know some of the rules here. As long as the job gets done, money is no issue." The woman's eyes instantly changed. She gave Jiang Yuan a long, deep look, then swiftly pocketed the banknote. Her smile grew much more genuine. "Since the young master knows the rules, then everything can be discussed. To tell you the truth, our fees are not cheap. 1 month costs 30 taels. And payment is collected 6 months in advance, 180 taels." Her voice was lowered, so only Jiang Yuan and Rower could hear. Rower gasped sharply at the figure. 30 taels a month. That was outrageous. An ordinary household wouldn't spend even 10 taels in an entire year. Yet Jiang Yuan remained composed. Calmly, he took out a bundle of notes, counted out 500 taels, and placed it on the table. "Here are 500 taels. As long as you can do as I say, money is not an issue." The old woman was stunned. She had run this tea house for decades and seen her share of wealthy spenders. But someone throwing money around like this was a first. Her expression grew solemn, her tone respectful. "Rest assured, young master. Our Tiandi society values credibility above all. As long as you can pay, there is nothing we cannot handle. What sort of guards do you want?" What requirements? Speak freely. Jiang Yuan smiled faintly, voicing what he had long planned. My request is simple: sharp minds, good intelligence, and most importantly, they must not interfere with my business. He set down his cup, his tone calm yet carrying undeniable authority. Preferably the type who can deal with trouble quietly, leaving no trace behind. Rower, listening beside him, was secretly taken aback. Her brother's demands were anything but ordinary. Was he really just hiring guards? The old woman furrowed her brows, set down her rag, and sat across from them, pondering for a while. The young master's demands are not low. To meet them, it'll cost this much. She raised her hand and waved 5 fingers before his face. 50 taels? Jiang Yuan arched his brow. The price was even higher than he had expected. But for the future of Chuanfeng House, he could afford it. No problem. I can pay. But your people must be reliable. The woman was surprised again. She had expected bargaining. Yet this young man agreed without hesitation, not even blinking. Clearly, this master was not short of money. Excellent. The young master is truly forthright. In that case, we accept this business. Jiang Yuan nodded slightly, secretly relieved. Fortunately, he had managed to connect with the Tiandi Society. With them involved, he could worry less about Chuanfeng House's future. As for whether their future assassination of the emperor would drag him down, that was something for more than 10 years later. Why worry now? As long as you do the job well, money is no problem. But I have one condition: I want to meet your people. I can't just hand over silver without even seeing them, can I? The old woman hesitated, then finally nodded. Young master is open-handed. Our Tiandi Society also values sincerity. Please wait a moment. She stood and walked toward the back of the tea house. Jiang Yuan frowned. What was this? Could it be that the Tiandi Society's experts were hiding inside this little tea house? Just then, a thunderous roar erupted from behind. Yan Laolu, you old bastard, where the hell are you? Hurry up and get your ass out here. That lion-like roar was so loud, dust shook loose from the roof beams nearby. Jiang Rower was startled and quickly covered her ears. Jiang Yuan also frowned, the corner of his mouth twitching slightly. This old crone was really fierce. She shouted a few times but got no reply. Her face instantly darkened. That damned old geezer, where did he run off to fool around again? She cursed and ranted, grabbed a kitchen knife from the back kitchen, and stormed toward a row of clay huts next to the tea house. Yan Laolu. You rotten old man, spending all day at brothels, is that it? Get your sorry hide out here. If you don't, I'll chop off your filthy thing with one stroke. Jiang Yuan and Jiang Rower exchanged looks, both seeing the shock in the other's eyes. What? What was this situation? Could it be that all people from the Tiandi Society were this unreliable? Very soon, a racket of chickens flying and dogs jumping erupted from inside the huts. Ow! Old woman, take it easy. Sai Chenhua, are you trying to murder your husband? I was wrong. I was wrong, okay? One miserable cry after another came from inside, and moments later, a ragged old man tumbled out, rolling and crawling. His hair was a mess. His face smeared with dirt, making him look utterly disheveled. This man was none other than the old crone's lover, Yan Laolu. The moment Yan Laolu saw Jiang Yuan, his expression flipped into a sycophantic grin. Rubbing his hands together, he fawned, "Ah, you must be the honored guest little Hua mentioned. Sorry to keep you waiting. The old man's name is Yan Laolu. Whatever you need, just say the word. I guarantee I'll get it done properly for you." Jiang Yuan looked at this old man, who was completely different from a moment ago, and his mouth twitched again. So, this was the so-called Tiandi Society expert? Why did he look more like some lecherous old rogue? Meanwhile, Sai Chenhua came storming out, panting and still holding the kitchen knife. Seeing Yan Laolu putting on that ingratiating face only made her angrier. Yan Laolu. You still dare smile? I told you to greet the guest, where did you sneak off to? Next time, I'll chop you up for real. Yan Laolu shuddered and quickly hid behind Jiang Yuan. Saichenhua, calm down a bit. I was out gathering intelligence, don't you know? And besides, the guest is right here. Put away your shrewish temper for now. As he spoke, he turned back to Jiang Yuan with a bow. Sir, don't mind her. My wife, she's just a tigress. Jiang Yuan suppressed his laughter and waved his hand. No matter, no matter. But before he finished, Saichenhua completely exploded. Yan Laolu. You damned old bastard, who are you calling a tigress? Today I'll tear that foul mouth off your face, and then chop off your useless meat. With a roar, she raised the knife and charged at him. Yan Laolu's face went pale in an instant. She's crazy, completely crazy. Sir, this place isn't safe. We'd better run for our lives. Without waiting for Jiang Yuan's reply, he grabbed Jiang Yuan's arm and whoosh, a sharp gust of wind whistled past. Jiang Yuan only felt his vision blur, and suddenly his whole body was being whisked away by Yan Laolu as if flying through the clouds. Jiang Rower gasped, but before she could react, the two had already vanished from the tea-house doorway. Hey! Yan Laolu, you damned old man, stop right there. Saichenhua waved her knife and gave chase, but how could her speed compare to Yan Laolu's? She could only watch helplessly as the two of them got farther and farther away. Huff. Huff. Dragged along, Jiang Yuan was left panting heavily, bending over with his hands braced on his knees. Yan. Yan elder, what? What on earth was that for? But Yan Laolu looked completely relaxed. He patted Jiang Yuan on the shoulder with pride. Well, young man, have you seen the old man's skills now? My lightness kung fu isn't just for show. Anyone in the capital who could catch me has already been buried long ago. That crazy hag Saichenhua thinks she can chase me? Dream on. Jiang Yuan rolled his eyes but was secretly amazed. Although it felt like Yan Laolu was boasting, his lightness kung fu really was extraordinary. In both of his lifetimes, he had only seen such a feat in movies. But he wasn't looking to hire a cat burglar, he wanted a bodyguard. What good was just being fast? After steadying his breath, Jiang Yuan asked, Elder Yan, Saichenhua should have told you my request, right? Can you really protect our Chuanfang brothel? At this, Yan Laolu instantly looked offended. He slapped his chest and bowed with full confidence. Boy, who are you looking down on? I've been in this capital for decades, and I've never once failed a mission. Protecting a little brothel? Huh. Even guarding the imperial palace would be child's play. And you wanted intelligence too, didn't you? I'm not bragging every stir and whisper in this capital. If I want to know it, it's just a word away. Jiang Yuan's heart skipped, and he couldn't help but look more closely at him. Could this old man really be some hidden master? Elder Yan. You truly have that much ability? Then can you find out who smashed up Chuanfang brothel? Yan Laolu chuckled, his face full of disdain. Boy, now you're asking the right person. Such a trivial matter, I'll have it cleared up within the time it takes to burn a stick of incense. Just watch, I'll call my people. He pulled a bamboo whistle from his robe and blew a few sharp notes. Moments later, ragged beggars came running from all directions. Elder, what are your orders? One of them asked obsequiously. Yan Laolu waved grandly, deliberately putting on the air of a big shot. Go find out who smashed up Chuanfang brothel. The beggars acknowledged with a bow and scurried off. Watching this scene, Jiang Yuan couldn't help being impressed. This Yan Laolu actually had some skill. He'd managed to recruit so many beggars. It seemed that 500 taels of silver really wasn't wasted. Sir, just wait for good news. Such a small thing. We'll have it sorted in no time. Let's just wait here a while. Jiang Yuan nodded, feeling increasingly pleased. So, the Tiandi Society really was reliable. Using beggars as informants, wasn't this just like the beggar sect? Yan Laolu might act like a clown, but his abilities weren't bad at all. Perhaps it was worth considering drawing him in? As Jiang Yuan pondered, a hazy voice suddenly floated over from a distance, ELD. Hick. Elder, you're here again. How many times have I told you, the courtesans in the inner city like young, talented men. They'll never take a fancy to you, so why can't you just give it up already? Jiang Yuan looked at the staggering beggar walking toward him and couldn't help but show a trace of doubt on his face. This drunkard act. Could the intel he brought really be reliable? But old Yan 6 seemed to see through Jiang Yuan's suspicion at once, and quickly said in a loud voice, "Rest assured, young master. In our line of work, one has to learn disguise. My man here only looks drunk inside, he's sober as can be. Just watch him." Old Yan 6 hadn't even finished speaking when, not far away, that tall, skinny beggar stumbled, crashed into a tree, and fell flat on his face like a dog eating dirt. Jiang Yuan. Old Yan 6. Old Yan 6 opened his mouth, wanting to explain a few words. But beyond his wildest expectation, after the lanky beggar got up, he started pointing at the locust tree beside him and cursing furiously, "You bastard, are you blind? Couldn't even make way for your old man. I'm not bragging, but I've trained in martial arts since I was a boy. One punch from me and you wouldn't be able to take it." Jiang Yuan looked at the tree, thick enough that it would take 2 men to wrap their arms around it, and fell into silence. "You disgraceful fool. Quit making a scene here." Old Yan 6 roared in fury. His figure blurred like a gust of wind, and in a flash he appeared before the lanky beggar, giving him a vicious kick on the backside. "Ah!" The beggar screamed, feeling himself lifted into the air. His face instantly twisted with fear. Thud. He hit the ground again, face first, with another pained wail. But this time, his eyes regained some clarity. Elder! Elder, why are you here?" The lanky beggar scrambled up, looking around in confusion at old Yan 6, as if he hadn't figured out the situation yet. At that moment, old Yan 6 felt like murdering someone. He could have slapped this useless bastard to death right there. This disgrace of a disciple had nearly cost him his reputation. Wooden chopsticks. "You damned fool, sober up." Old Yan 6 was hopping mad, jabbing a finger at the beggar's nose while cursing, "If you don't wake up right now, I'll toss you into the clear water river to feed the fish. And you dare boast about training in martial arts since childhood? Looks to me like you've just drunk yourself stupid." Terrified by old Yan 6's scolding, Wooden Chopsticks shivered violently. The alcohol fog clearing from his head. He dropped to his knees, knocking his forehead on the ground with loud thuds. "Elder, spare me. I know I was wrong. I'll never drink and ruin business again. Please forgive me this once." But old Yan 6 wasn't swayed. He snorted coldly and glared at him with hatred. "Humph. You'd better know you were wrong. If you dare repeat this mistake, I'll skin you alive. Now get over here and greet our honored guest." Only then did Wooden Chopsticks notice Jiang Yuan standing nearby. He scrambled up and rushed over, bowing and scraping. "Your humble servant Wooden Chopsticks greets the honored guest. Whatever commands you may have, just say the word. I promise I'll get it done perfectly for you." Jiang Yuan looked at the beggar, whose demeanor had shifted so dramatically, and couldn't help doubting in his heart. Were these people really reliable? Was he about to be swindled? But looking at old Yan 6's face dark with shame and anger, like he wanted to swallow Wooden Chopsticks whole, Jiang Yuan thought it best not to expose anything. At least, old Yan 6 himself clearly had real strength. Thinking this, Jiang Yuan smiled faintly and turned toward old Yan 6. "Elder Yan, perhaps we should let this matter go. So long as your men keep watch over the business of Chuanfeng Pavilion, I have no other demands." Hearing this, old Yan 6 grew even more anxious. A fat sheep of a client like Jiang Yuan was rare in the Heaven's Truth Society's line of work. If this business fell apart, wouldn't Mr. Saichun have his head for it? No matter what, he had to make this guest trust his ability. Yes, trust was the key. Thinking this, old Yen 6's expression suddenly grew stern. Wooden chopsticks. Tell me honestly what exactly happened the day Chuanfeng Pavilion was smashed. And who was behind it? Speak clearly. If you dare hide even the smallest detail, I'll never let you off. Wooden chopsticks turned pale as paper and collapsed to his knees with a thud. He trembled violently, lips quivering, stammering, elder. Seeing this, old Yen 6 grew even angrier. He seized Wooden chopsticks by the collar, yanking him up from the ground and barking, "Wooden chopsticks! You damned fool, spit it out. The day Chuanfeng Pavilion was smashed, what exactly were you doing? If you dare hide anything, I'll throw you in the clear water river right now to feed the fish." Terrified by old Yen 6's aura, Wooden chopsticks let out a wail, tears and snot streaming down his face. "Elder, have mercy. I didn't mean to. That day, I just happened to be passing Dishing Tower. And then I smelled roast chicken. I couldn't help it. I ran over and stole a roast chicken. So I didn't notice what was happening at Chuanfeng Pavilion. Elder, please forgive me. The roast chicken from Dishing Tower. It's really delicious. You really must try it." Even as he cried, Wooden chopsticks smacked his lips, as if still savoring the taste of the roast chicken. Old Yen 6's face turned completely green. He shook with rage, pointing at Wooden chopsticks but unable to form words. You damned fool. For a roast chicken. You actually dared to neglect business. I'll beat you to death today." Unable to hold back any longer, old Yen 6 roared and lunged at Wooden chopsticks. A storm of fists and kicks rained down. Soon Wooden chopsticks was beaten black and blue, howling like a ghost. "Ah! Elder, have mercy. I won't do it again. Next time I steal a roast chicken, I'll give it to you first, alright." Standing to the side, Jiang Yuan watched this ridiculous scene. His mouth twitched uncontrollably. What on earth was this? So this was the Heaven's Truth Society? This unreliable? But still. Was Dishing Tower's roast chicken really that good? No, now was his mind getting sidetracked too. Jiang Yuan shook his head forcefully, throwing away the stray thoughts. He turned to old Yen 6 and advised, "Elder Yen, enough. No need to be so harsh. I was only asking casually. Don't take it too seriously." Hearing this, old Yen 6 finally stopped his beating. Turning back, he looked at Jiang Yuan with an embarrassed smile. "Guest, please don't take it to heart. This is all a misunderstanding, just a misunderstanding. This man of mine. He's simply a glutton. But rest assured, I guarantee nothing like this will ever happen again. I swear, I'll keep Chuanfeng Pavilion's business safe." Jiang Yuan nodded and was about to speak, when suddenly a familiar figure appeared before him. "Son-in-law, the master requests your presence at the Manor. The capital, at the Grand General's mansion." Zhou Xian looked at Jiang Yuan before him and spoke in a deep voice. "I already know about the Chuanfeng Pavilion being smashed. But why didn't you come to the General's mansion to borrow men, and instead chose to hire guards from outside?" Jiang Yuan cupped his hands respectfully and replied, "Father-in-law. At present I am but a so-called foppish good-for-nothing. If I rashly mobilize the power of the General's mansion, it might arouse His Majesty's suspicion. Moreover, I would not wish for father-in-law to be placed in an awkward position over such a trivial matter." Hearing this, a trace of admiration flickered in Zhou Xian's eyes. This son-in-law was thoughtful and cautious in his conduct, a man with potential. It is good that you have such concerns. Still, you needn't worry too much. A few street thugs are not enough to stir up any real trouble. In a few days, the Martial Academy will begin its riding course. This course affects academic evaluations. Tell me, son-in-law, can you ride a horse? Jiang Yuan was slightly taken aback. What the heck? A riding course? Does the martial academy really cover everything? The awkward part was couldn't ride a horse at all. Even in his previous life, the most he had done was sit in a carriage. It was as though he was fated to clash with horseback riding. Every attempt ended with him being thrown off. Suppressing those painful memories, Jiang Yuan shook his head. I've never learned. Zhou Xian nodded, as if he had already expected that answer. He turned his gaze toward his daughter Su Muying and instructed, in that case, Muying, for the next few days you shall personally teach Jiang Yuan how to ride. Make sure he passes the riding course. Yes, father. Su Muying responded, her eyes carrying a hint of curiosity as she glanced at Jiang Yuan. Could this seemingly frail fellow really learn to ride a horse? Zhou Xian's gaze returned to Jiang Yuan, his tone now solemn. The martial academy is filled with hidden talents. No matter the subject, you must treat each course with utmost seriousness. Jiang Yuan was stunned. For even his father-in-law, who looked down on most men, to say the academy was full of hidden talents. Could it be that something extraordinary was concealed there? It seemed he would need to keep his eyes sharp during classes. Warm Jade Pavilion, one of the capital's most famous pleasure houses. Zhao Tsongming reclined with two beautiful courtesans in his arms, grinning as he looked at Jiang Xing across the table. Cousin, I hear that bastard half-brother of yours has recently won great favor with Master Wu Yong. If you're planning to take revenge on him in the martial academy, I'm afraid it won't be so easy. Jiang Xing's face instantly darkened. He gave a cold snort, gritting his teeth. Humph. Jiang Yuan is nothing more than a lucky dog. He only gained Wu Yong's favor because of some shabby book he picked up who knows where. Once we're in the martial academy, I'll make sure his true colors are revealed. Zhao Tsongming chuckled slyly, his eyes gleaming with mischief. Cousin, don't forget the riding course begins in 3 days. By then, we could always. He leaned close, whispering a few words into Jiang Xing's ear. Jiang Xing's eyes lit up immediately. He slapped his thigh in excitement. Brilliant. Cousin, your schemes are always the sharpest. That fool Jiang Yuan doesn't even know how to ride a horse. All we need to do is tamper a little with his mount. Heh, he'll make a fool of himself for sure. Zhao Tsongming raised his cup with a smug smile. Come then, cousin, let's drink to the success of our plan. Cheers. Jiang Xing downed his cup in one gulp. A vicious gleam in his eyes. Jiang Yuan, just you wait. This time, I'll see you utterly disgraced in the martial academy. At the general's mansion, the horse training ground. Dozens of fine steeds grazed leisurely, occasionally snorting into the air. Standing at the edge, Jiang Yuan gazed at the tall horses, feeling a trace of dread. Taking a deep breath, he tried to steady his nerves. Su Muying stepped up beside him and pointed at the herd. These are all top-bred horses brought from Mabe. Choose whichever you like. Jiang Yuan nodded, scanning the group. He knew nothing about horses and could only rely on instinct. Then, in the corner of the field, he noticed a chestnut mare standing alone. It seemed aloof, almost proud. Yet Jiang Yuan felt it was different from the others. Pointing at the mare, he asked, "What's that one's name?" Su Muying followed his finger. Her expression turned peculiar. That's Red General. It's the leader of the herd. But its temper is foul. Even my father can't ride it. Jiang Yuan raised an eyebrow. Bad temper? The head horse? Now that was interesting. And besides, he especially liked the name Red General. He smiled. Then I'll choose it. Su Muying blinked, surprised. She hadn't expected Jiang Yuan to pick Red General. She opened her mouth to dissuade him, but when she saw the firmness in his eyes, she swallowed the words. Very well. Since you've chosen it, give it a try. But be careful. Don't let it throw you. Jiang Yuan nodded and approached the mare. He gently stroked its mane. Sensing his goodwill, Red General didn't resist. It merely snorted softly, rubbing its head against his hand. Joy rose in Jiang Yuan's heart. Perhaps this horse wasn't as unmanageable as rumored. He clumsily mounted. Red General gave a displeased shake, but Jiang Yuan managed to steady himself, gripping the reins tightly. Watching from the side, Su Muying felt a flicker of nervousness. She had already prepared to intervene the moment danger arose. Yet to her surprise, Red General did not buck him off. It merely circled a few times before standing obediently still. Jiang Yuan let out a sigh of relief. It seemed Red General didn't dislike him after all. Bolstered by confidence, he tugged the reins. Red General, shall we run a few laps? As if understanding, the mare tossed its head and neighed loudly. Then with a sudden jerk, its hind legs kicked off the ground. Jiang Yuan felt his body fly upward. The next moment, he slammed heavily into the dirt. Ow, damn it. Su Muying froze for a moment, then couldn't hold back. Covering her mouth, she burst into laughter. Ha ha ha. I thought Red General liked you, but it seems it respects no one. Embarrassed, Jiang Yuan scrambled to his feet, brushing off dust. But his eyes still burned with defiance. I don't believe this. Today, I will ride this Red General. Bang! Ouch! Jiang Yuan once again fell flat on his face, thrown off the horse. He had already lost count of how many times he'd fallen. Standing off to the side, Su Muying watched. At first her gaze carried a trace of amusement, but now it had become serious. To be fair, if it had been anyone else, they would have long since given up. But Jiang Yuan? Every single time he was thrown off Red General's back, his eyes only grew more determined. That indomitable willpower Su Muying had only ever seen it before in her father. Why don't you try another horse? She asked tentatively. But Jiang Yuan shook his head resolutely. No. I refuse to believe I can't tame this one. But... Su Muying's red lips parted slightly, hesitated for a moment, and then her eyes hardened with resolve. Wait here. I'll ride Red General with you. Su Muying's riding skills were far superior to Jiang Yuan's. If Jiang Yuan was at novice level, then she was at least a master. With practiced ease, she grabbed the reins and leapt lightly onto the horse's back, her movement graceful as a swallow. Then she extended a slender jade-like hand toward him. Jiang Yuan looked up at the hand before him, hesitated briefly, and finally took it. Her palm was soft and warm to the touch. With a gentle pull, Su Muying hauled him up. Red General wasn't particularly large, so with two people mounted, it felt even more cramped. The two sat front and back, her back pressed against his chest. Jiang Yuan couldn't help but feel distracted by the closeness of her delicate figure, and the faint fragrance that drifted from her hair. Hiya! Su Muying gave a crisp shout, her legs lightly squeezing the horse's flanks. Red General shot forward like an arrow loosed from its bow. Caught unprepared, Jiang Yuan's body lurched backward, nearly thrown off. In that split second, he instinctively reached forward and wrapped both arms tightly around Su Muying's slender waist. Her body stiffened slightly. She could clearly feel his hands firmly gripping her. A strange heat coursed through her entire body, and her cheeks flushed red. Sit still. Su Muying scolded, though her voice carried a trace of flustered embarrassment. She forced herself to focus on handling the horse. Red General galloped faster and faster across the riding grounds. Wind whistled past Jiang Yuan's ears, and he only hugged her waist tighter. Just when they thought Red General was finally subdued, the horse suddenly reared up with a furious neigh. Su Muying had no time to react before both she and Jiang Yuan were thrown off together. Careful! She cried out in alarm, instinctively clutching Jiang Yuan tightly. She knew well Jiang Yuan was just an ordinary man with no martial training. At this speed, a fall wouldn't kill him, but broken bones were inevitable. As a martial artist, her body was far sturdier. At worst, she would just suffer a few days of pain. So she chose to shield him with her own body. What she didn't realize was, the instant Jiang Yuan was flung, his mind went blank. At this speed, wouldn't he at least break an arm? But almost at the same time, he felt himself enveloped in a warm, soft embrace. A startling softness pressed against his cheek, springy and yielding. Jiang Yuan's brain froze, his thoughts scattering into white noise. Bang! The two of them hit the ground hard. Su Muying let out a cry of pain, but inside she sighed in relief. Luckily, she had absorbed most of the impact. Jiang Yuan should be fine. "Why you okay?" she asked. I am fine." Jiang Yuan shook his head, about to say more, when he suddenly realized something about their position was questionable. Wait a second. This pillow under his head. If you're fine, then hurry up and get off me. Su Muying, feeling his head move, was instantly overwhelmed with shame and anger. Her face burned crimson. Only then did she realize Jiang Yuan was lying right on top of her. An unprecedented sense of embarrassment rushed over her. She wished the ground would just open up and swallow her whole. "Get off me now." Her voice trembled slightly. Jiang Yuan finally came back to his senses, quickly pushed himself up, and stood. He forced a sheepish smile. "An accident, just an accident. Su girl, thank you for saving me just now." Su Muying said nothing, only shot him a fierce glare. She took a deep breath, trying to calm her embarrassment, then swiftly grabbed the reins again and mounted the horse. Her voice held a hint of fluster as she said, "Time is short. Let's continue." And so, the two of them practiced in the riding grounds for the whole afternoon. Though Jiang Yuan's riding was still clumsy, at least he no longer fell off the horse. The time spent together also made them much more familiar with each other. As dusk fell, Jiang Yuan took the initiative to excuse himself. "Many thanks to Su girl for your instruction today. I'm truly grateful. Since it's late, I'll take my leave." Su Muying nodded, giving him a deep look. "All right. Be careful on your way back." Jiang Yuan cupped his hands in farewell and turned to leave the general's manor. At Chuanfeng Pavilion, just as Jiang Yuan reached the entrance, he saw Yan Lao Lu sitting on the steps, as though waiting for someone. The moment he spotted Jiang Yuan, Yan Lao Lu sprang to his feet, a smile plastered across his face. "Sir, finally you've come." Jiang Yuan blinked in surprise. "Elder Yan. You were waiting for me?" "Of course." Yan Lao Lu rubbed his hands together, a smug look spreading across his face. "To tell you the truth, I've already tracked down the background of those people who caused trouble here at Chuanfeng Pavilion that day. Guess what? They turned out to be clerks from Jingliang Cloth House's out-of-town branch." "Huh. Those bastards thought hiding outside the capital would stop me from finding out? Who do they think they're dealing with? Jingliang Cloth House?" Jiang Yuan's brow arched. A cold glint flashing in his eyes. So, he had been right all along. He had long suspected that Jingliang Cloth House was behind the attack on Chuanfeng Pavilion, but until now he had lacked proof. Now that Yan Lao Lu had uncovered the truth, this was something he could use. Not yet though. Timing was everything. He wasn't about to just swallow this insult, but he would wait for the right moment to make Jingliang Cloth House pay dearly. Seeing Jiang Yuan's face darken, Yan Lao Lu hesitated, then cautiously asked, "Sir, how should we handle this matter? Want me to have those fellows arrested and handed over to the authorities?" Jiang Yuan thought briefly, then shook his head. "No need for now. Just keep them under control. They may still be useful later." Yan Lao Lu nodded. "Understood, sir. Leave it to me." He scratched his head, then added with a sly grin, "But keeping them locked up means food and drink expenses. About those costs. What do you think?" "Just a bit of silver, nothing worth worrying about, Senior Yan." Jiang Yuan casually tossed out 1,000-tael banknote. That grand, free-spending manner left Yan Lao Lu dumbfounded. This young master. Is he really this wealthy? Wasn't he supposed to be the neglected illegitimate son of the Jiang Marquis? Then how could he be throwing money around like this? Jiang Yuan, of course, was unaware of Yan Lalio's shock. After the incident earlier, he was now convinced of Yan Lalio's abilities. This meant his money hadn't been wasted. Rubbing his brow, Jiang Yuan spoke again, "Senior Yan, there's another matran, even more important one that I need your help with." Seeing Jiang Yuan suddenly turn serious, Yan Laolu immediately cupped his hands. "Please instruct me, young master. As long as it's within this old man's ability, I won't refuse." "Have you ever heard of Qinghe Village?" "Qinghe Village?" Yan Laolu frowned, thinking for a moment, then answered, "As far as I know, there are at least 5 villages by that name. But judging by what you mean, young master, you must be referring to the 150 li outside the capital?" "That's right. That's the place." Jiang Yuan nodded. Yan Laolu, however, grew curious and asked, "May I ask, young master, why inquire about Qinghe Village?" "It's just some backwater. Nothing special there." Jiang Yuan smiled faintly, his expression calm yet confident. "I want you to go to Qinghe Village and purchase something called cotton." "Cotton?" Yan Laolu looked even more puzzled, scratching his head in confusion. "Young master, what? What is cotton? I've never heard of such a thing." Jiang Yuan wasn't surprised by this reaction. After all, cotton had not yet spread throughout Great Zhou. In his previous life, he had only learned by chance that Qinghe Village had cotton. Later, with his vigorous promotion, cotton's importance was finally recognized. But at this time, he had not yet popularized it, so naturally, others knew nothing about it. Cotton is a kind of plant. When its fruit ripens, it bursts open to reveal white fibers inside. Those fibers can be spun into thread and woven into cloth far better than hemp or ramie. When you arrive in Qinghe Village, you can ask the local farmers. They should know what cotton is. Still scratching his head, Yan Laolu nodded, though he didn't quite understand. "All right, young master, I'll head over and take a look. But at what price should I purchase this cotton?" Jiang Yuan paused, calculating for a moment, before replying, "Just buy it at the market price of hemp or ramie. In addition, I'll give you 2,000 taels of silver for the purchase." As he spoke, Jiang Yuan pulled out another thick stack of notes and handed them to Yan Laolu. Yan Laolu's eyes went wide as he stared at the notes in his hands. He hadn't expected Jiang Yuan to trust him so much, just handing over such a large sum. 2,000 taels. That was no small amount. Enough for an ordinary family to live in comfort for a lifetime. Deeply moved, Yan Laolu carefully put the notes away. Then, after a brief hesitation, he lowered his voice, "Young master, there's something I don't know if I should say. You must be very careful of the Jingliang cloth house. Fine quality cloth shop. They're no ordinary merchants. Behind them stand the Ministry of Revenue and the Imperial Weaving Bureau. These corrupt officials have made no small fortune off Jingliang over the years." Jiang Yuan was momentarily surprised. He hadn't expected Yan Laolu to warn him proactively. Clearly, his earlier generosity had won Yan Laolu's goodwill. But money alone wasn't enough. To truly win Yan Laolu over, he would also need to display his own ability and vision. As for the Ministry of Revenue and the Weaving Bureau, in the face of absolute productivity, they would only be crushed. And if they dared to use force? Did they really think the general's mansion's hundreds of thousands of troops sat around doing nothing? "Don't worry, Senior Yan. I know what I'm doing. As for Jingliang Cloth House, I don't take them seriously. Even the Ministry of Revenue and the Weaving Bureau must abide by Great Zhou's laws and act according to regulations. And if they try brute force, the general's mansion will not stand idly by." Hearing this, Yan Laolu couldn't help but click his tongue in amazement. He had originally thought this young master was just another frivolous playboy with some odd ideas. But now, it seemed this man was nothing like the rumors. And why was he so certain that the general's mansion would back him? Could it be this young master had already gained the recognition of the great general himself? The thought made Yan Laolu draw in a sharp breath. General Su Xian was a man with his nose forever in the air. Even facing the emperor, he never bent his back. For Jiang Yuan to have his favor, he must indeed be extraordinary. Senior Yan, it's cold out here. Let's talk inside. Very well. Yan Laolu nodded and followed Jiang Yuan. The two entered Xuanfang Pavilion together. But instead of leading him into the front hall, Jiang Yuan brought him straight to the rear hall. The moment they stepped in, Yan Laolu caught a whiff of alluring fragrance. His heart skipped, and he halted at the threshold, embarrassed. Young master, isn't this a bit improper? If Xiaohua finds out, she'll come after me with a kitchen knife again. Jiang Yuan froze for a moment, then an odd expression crept across his face. Clearly, Yan Laolu still had no idea that Xuanfang Pavilion had been completely converted into a cloth workshop. He was about to explain when Yan Laolu suddenly declared in a solemn, righteous tone, "But as the saying goes, if I don't go to hell, who will? Since you've invited me, how could I spoil your fun? Please, young master. I've long heard that Xuanfang Pavilion's 7 ups and 8 downs is famous. Today, I'll finally witness it for myself." Jiang Yuan. The moment Yan Laolu stepped into the back hall, his eyes darted everywhere in excitement. But in the next instant, disappointment washed over him. This back hall was nothing like what he imagined. Yes, there were plenty of beauties. Yes, the fragrance was enchanting. But the problem was none of these women even glanced his way. All their eyes were fixed firmly on the weaving machines before them. Wait a minute. Those weaving machines looked strange. Yan Lalio's brows shot up, a gleam flashing in his eyes. He might not know engineering, but he had an old brother who studied mechanisms deeply. After years of exposure, he could usually see through simple contraptions at a glance. But these weaving machines were far too complex. The more he looked, the less he understood. Finally, he couldn't help but ask, "Young master, this weaving machine. It's something else, isn't it?" "Oh?" Jiang Yuan was slightly taken aback. He looked at old Sixth Yan beside him with some surprise. He hadn't expected the other party to actually be able to see that the weaving machine was extraordinary. Could it be he understood mechanical arts? "Senior Yan, you also know mechanical arts?" Old Sixth Yan coughed twice and waved his hands repeatedly. No, I don't. I'm just a rough fellow, how could I understand that sort of thing? It's just that I've seen a lot of it from an old brother of mine, so I can recognize some simple mechanisms." When Jiang Yuan heard this, his eyes lit up instantly. Right now, what he lacked the most was precisely a craftsman who understood mechanical arts, someone who could further improve the weaving machine. As for the craftsmen he had recruited from the market, they couldn't even understand the basic blueprints. To expect them to improve the weaving machine, he might as well do it himself. But if he could find a true master of mechanical arts, then everything would be simple. Thinking of this, Jiang Yuan immediately asked, "Senior Yan, may I ask, is your old brother very accomplished in mechanical arts?" As soon as old Sixth Yan heard mention of his old brother, he grew spirited, and a gleam appeared in his eyes. "Of course." Old Sixth Yan slapped his thigh, his face full of pride. "My old brother is no ordinary person. Those hands of his more dexterous than a woman's. Wooden oxen and flowing horses, Zhuge repeating crossbows. As long as he takes one look, he can make them for you. And besides that, he's invented plenty of strange contraptions of his own. His skill's absolutely the best in the world." Jiang Yuan's heart burned with excitement. He wished he could meet this mechanical master immediately. Right now, what he needed most was exactly such a talent. "Senior Yan, where's your old brother now?" Old Sixth Yan chuckled and pointed silently toward the imperial palace not far away. "Far away in the heavens?" "No, right before your eyes. He's right here in the capital. But, well, if you want to ask for his help, it won't come cheap. At least 30 taels of silver." Old Sixth Yan made up a random figure, not thinking much of it. After all, Jiang Yuan usually spent thousands of taels in one move. 30 taels of silver to him was hardly a drop in the bucket. As expected, Jiang Yuan didn't care at all. He waved his hand, mere 30 taels? That's nothing. Senior Yen, does your old brother happen to be free now? If convenient, why don't we go pay him a visit right away? That was exactly what old 6th Yen had been waiting for. He thumped his chest and perked up at once. Free? Of course he's free. My old brother doesn't usually have much to do, just tinkers with chunks of wood at home all day long. Come, let's go right now. Oh right, young master, my old brother's surname isn't Yen. His surname is Liu. Folks call him Master Liu. You mustn't call it wrong. Master Liu? Jiang Yuan's mouth twitched slightly. That title sounded a little familiar somehow. In the western outskirts of the capital stood a shabby little courtyard. The yard was piled high with all sorts of wood and spare parts, and the ground was littered with every kind of tool. A white-haired, thin old man was squatting on the ground, carefully tinkering with a wooden bird. He seemed completely absorbed in his own world, not even noticing when old 6th Yen and Jiang Yuan stepped into the yard. Fifth brother. Fifth brother. Old 6th Yen called out loudly twice. Only then did old 5th Liu raise his head. When he saw old 6th Yen, he broke into a delighted smile. Old 6th. What brings you here? He stood up, patted the dust from his clothes, and then noticed Jiang Yuan. His eyes held a trace of curiosity. And this is... Old 6th Yen promptly shoved Jiang Yuan forward and introduced heartily, Fifth brother, this is young Master Jiang. Like you, he's devoted to mechanical arts, so he came specially to pay you a visit. Hearing this, old 5th Liu showed a flicker of surprise. After all, in these times, mechanical arts had long since declined. Very few people were truly interested in them anymore. Jiang Yuan stepped forward, clasped his hands, and greeted respectfully, Master Liu, I have long admired your name. To meet you today is truly an honor. Old 5th Liu smiled, clasped his hands back in return, and got straight to the point, young Master Jiang, I've always liked to be frank. What business brings you here today? Speak plainly. Seeing this, Jiang Yuan didn't bother with roundabout words either. He said directly, Master Liu, to be honest, I've developed a new type of weaving machine, but I can't get it into mass production. I would like to ask you to help me refine the design so it can be mass-produced. At these words, Master Liu's eyes lit up immediately. He hadn't expected that Jiang Yuan had truly come to consult him on mechanical arts. Normally, those who came sought weapons or hidden devices. Rarely did anyone ask about actual mechanical design. After pondering briefly, Master Liu said, the structure of a weaving machine is very complex. Without blueprints, I cannot be sure. If you don't mind, could I take a look at your design drawings? Of course not, why would I mind? Jiang Yuan shook his head and directly pulled out a blueprint from his robe, handing it to Master Liu. Master Liu, this is my weaving machine design. Please take a look and see what still needs improvement. Master Liu accepted the drawing and glanced over it casually. But immediately afterward, his face froze with shock. Impossible. How could this be? The design on this blueprint was not so much an improvement on a weaving machine, but rather as if the weaving machine had been broken down and completely redesigned from scratch. It contained countless ingenious ideas even Master Liu couldn't help but marvel. So it could be done this way. This design directly boosted weaving efficiency tenfold or more. The more he looked, the more astonished he became. The more he looked, the more excited he grew. Brilliant. Absolutely ingenious. Master Liu couldn't stop praising it. But soon, he frowned. However, why are there some simple parts that are designed unreasonably? Strange, strange. Clearly it could have been made much more perfect. Hearing Master Liu's evaluation, Jiang Yuan's heart surged with excitement. Heaven had finally let him find someone who understood. He had the theories in his mind, but his hands-on skills were lacking. That was why he had made some low-level mistakes. But with Master Lu's help from now on, it would definitely be like adding wings to a tiger unmatched strength. Master Lu, do you think you have the confidence to modify this weaving machine into a version that can be mass-produced? To tell you the truth, I actually have many more ideas, but my ability is limited. I just can't build them. If you are willing, Master Lu. Lu Laowu froze for a moment, then suddenly his expression turned deadly serious. He grabbed the tool bag hanging on the wall, got up, and strode out. His fiery, decisive posture left Jiang Yuan and Yan Laolu dumbfounded. Such smooth, swift movements, was this really something an old man could pull off? In the blink of an eye, Lu Laowu had already reached the courtyard gate. Only then did he realize something was off. He immediately turned back, his eyes tinged with blame as he looked at Jiang Yuan and Yan Laolu. What are you two still standing there for? Lead the way up front. Jiang Yuan never dreamed that Master Lu would so easily be brought to Chuanfeng Pavilion, and judging by his obsessive, sleepless fervor, it seemed quite possible he'd intend to stay there permanently. Although Chuanfeng Pavilion was a residence for women, having Master Lu live there wasn't a problem. After all, aside from the main building, the rear quarters had a large open area with 7 or 8 empty rooms. Those rooms had once been prepared for certain special guests who preferred not to show their faces in public. But now that Chuanfeng Pavilion had changed its line of business, those rooms had been left vacant. All right, go about your own business. This old man needs to thoroughly study this treasure. Unless it's something truly important, don't come bothering me. Having obtained the loom, Lu Laowu cast Jiang Yuan and Yan Laolu aside like a scumbag ditching his ex-girlfriend. Jiang Yuan gave a helpless smile, but inside he was more than satisfied. Next, all he had to do was wait for Yan Laolu to bring back the cotton, and then continue riding the Lady General. Day turned to night, and in a flash another dawn arrived. Jiang Yuan slowly opened his eyes, feeling refreshed and clear-headed. Beside him, Jiang Rower was already up, carefully arranging his robes. Master, are we going to the Su residence today? She asked softly, her gentle voice full of tender charm. Jiang Yuan rubbed her adorable head, stretched, and said lazily, my writing isn't quite polished yet. I'll need Miss Su to guide me a bit more. Rower answered obediently, then tied his belt for him and handed him a steaming hot towel. Master, please wash your face. Jiang Yuan wiped his face, then asked casually, by the way, Rower, why haven't I seen Jiang Xing these last couple of days? Normally, by now, if Jiang Xing had heard Chuanfeng Pavilion had stopped its old trade, he'd already be waiting at the gate to mock him. But these days, the fellow was nowhere to be seen. Quite odd. Rower puffed up her little cheeks angrily and said, Master, you don't know recently Jiang Xing has been very close with a man named Zhao Tsongming. Zhao Tsongming? Jiang Yuan was taken aback, then quickly realized. You mean the son of the Vice Minister of Rights, Zhao Tsongming? Isn't he Jiang Xing's cousin? Rower nodded, her tone carrying a trace of wariness. The servants in the manor say those two are stuck together all day long. No one knows what they're scheming. Jiang Yuan frowned slightly. A vague unease rose in his heart. Though the two were cousins and did meet from time to time, they had never been this inseparable. Something abnormal was definitely afoot. He silently grew more cautious, but kept his expression calm. Smiling faintly at Rower, he said, Forget it, let's not worry about them. Come, let's have breakfast. Afterward, I still need to go to the Su residence. Yes, Master. At the Su residence training grounds. Jiang Yuan swung himself onto a horse, his movements now quite practiced. Su Muying, riding a gray steed beside him, watched quietly. Not bad. UVE improved quickly. Jiang Yuan smiled confidently. All thanks to Miss Su's instruction. After 2 days of practice, he had basically grasped the essentials of riding. Though far from mastery, it was more than enough to pass the riding lessons at the martial academy. Su Muying studied him deeply, a flicker of admiration in her eyes. She had originally thought he would need at least 10 days, maybe half a month, to pick up the basics. Who would have thought that in just 2 short days, he'd reach this level? Such talent was truly astonishing. Jiang Yuan, at your current level, you should be able to score a solid B+ at the Academy's writing exam. Hearing this, Jiang Yuan felt a surge of joy. A B+ was more than enough. As long as he didn't fail and get expelled, that was all that mattered. As for showing off, he was just a good-for-nothing son-in-law. The more he stood out, the sooner he'd get killed. 2 days passed quickly. As instructed, Yan Laolu had already purchased the first batch of cotton from Qinghe village. In the back hall of Chuanfeng Pavilion, the weaver girls had once again gathered around the loom, faces brimming with eager anticipation. They were all women of misfortune, who had believed they'd spend their whole lives selling their bodies. But who could have imagined that Jiang Yuan, the wastrel in their eyes, would become the hero to rescue them from hell? Since Chuanfeng Pavilion had shifted to the cloth trade, though their days were filled with fatigue, the women now earned far more silver with their own hands. The feeling of earning money through honest labor was infinitely better than selling themselves. Jiang Yuan watched the girls' spirited figures, a sense of accomplishment welling in his chest. Truly, he was a great benefactor. To guide courtesans to a new life, nothing could be more virtuous. Still, he didn't linger in Chuanfeng Pavilion. Instead, he turned, boarded his carriage, and headed toward the Martial Academy. Today was the day the writing class officially began. Being late carried severe consequences. His carriage rolled to a halt before the Martial Academy gates. Jumping down, Jiang Yuan stretched and felt his whole body energized. The gates were already open. Several students in uniform stood chatting in small groups outside. Jiang Yuan's eyes quickly fell on Jiang Xing, standing at the entrance. Wasn't this guy usually the one who cut it close? Why was he here so early today? He frowned slightly. On the other side, Jiang Xing had already spotted him. With a flash of excitement in his eyes, Jiao rushed over, his face plastered with a fawning smile. "Brother Jiang, at last. I've been waiting for you here half the day." Jiang Yuan looked at his expression and felt something was definitely off. As the saying goes, unsolicited courtesy always hides a motive. Clearly, Jia had something to ask of him. "Brother Jia, just say what you want." Rubbing his hands with a chuckle, Jia lowered his voice and asked, "Brother Jiang, how is Madam Shi these days?" "Madam Shi?" Jiang Yuan froze, then the corners of his mouth twitched. "Seriously? You run to Chuanfeng Pavilion 7 or 8 times a day, and you're asking me how she's doing? I don't even know the place as well as you do. Brother Jia, you should know Lady Shi's situation better than I do, shouldn't you? After all, I haven't been running to Chuanfeng Pavilion 7 or 8 times a day like you." Jiang Yuan gave Jia Xingjing a playful glance, his tone full of mockery. Hearing this, Jia Xingjing's face stiffened with embarrassment. He gave a dry cough, just about to explain himself when suddenly a deep, resonant drumbeat thundered from within the Martial Academy. The horsemanship class was about to begin. Martial Academy, drill grounds. Unlike the lecture halls for military strategy, the drill grounds were vast, covering an area as large as more than 10 football fields. Weapon racks stood neatly along the edges, while at the center lay a massive circular riding arena, fenced in. The students had already assembled, standing in rows. In front of them was a burly middle-aged man, clad in a black short tunic. He was none other than the horsemanship instructor of the Martial Academy, once the #1 rider in all, great Zhou Guopijuan. "Today is your first horsemanship lesson." Guopijuan's voice boomed like rolling thunder. Riding is one of the 6 arts of a soldier. Its importance cannot be overstated. A true cavalryman must not only master horsemanship, but also learn to bond with his steed, achieving unity between man and horse. Only then can one gallop across the battlefield, invincible and unstoppable. His gaze swept coldly across the students before continuing, "Today's lesson will focus on helping you familiarize yourselves with the horses and choose a suitable warhorse. In a moment, the grooms will bring in the horses. You will pick one for yourselves. Remember, in the battlefield, your horse is your closest comrade. Choose wisely. With a wave of his hand, several grooms led in over a dozen tall, powerful horses. The students immediately grew excited, their eyes lighting up as they rushed forward to select their steeds. Jiang Yuan, mixing in with the crowd, soon chose a small chestnut mare. But he failed to notice that Jiang Xing had slipped away from the others and approached one of the grooms. "Cousin, is everything arranged?" "Of course. Don't you trust your cousin's work?" The groom lowered his head as he spoke, but his tone carried a trace of arrogance. This groom was none other than Zhao Tsongming, son of the Vice Minister of Rights. "Do you see this apricot yellow horse I'm holding? At the right moment, make sure Jiang Yuan ends up with it." Jiang Xing's eyes gleamed with excitement. "Jiang Yuan, oh Jiang Yuan. Let's see how you wriggle out of this one. Today, in front of everyone, I'll trample you beneath my feet." With that thought, he raised his voice and pointed to the apricot yellow horse. "This one looks truly magnificent. I'll choose this apricot yellow horse." Zhao Tsongming nodded and handed the reins over to Jiang Xing. But instead of keeping it, Jiang Xing walked straight toward Jiang Yuan. Jiang Yuan frowned, puzzled at his brother's sudden approach. Jiang Xing gestured toward the apricot yellow horse, speaking in a falsely earnest tone. "Brother, I know you're not skilled at riding, so I specially picked this fine horse for you. Take it." Jiang Yuan's brows furrowed slightly. His younger brother showing such kindness? Unless the sun rose in the west. Clearly, there was something wrong with this apricot yellow horse. So he shook his head and pointed at his chestnut mare. "No need, little brother. I've already chosen. Since you're so skilled at horsemanship, this apricot yellow horse suits you best." "How could that be?" Jiang Xing feigned indignation, adopting a tone of brotherly concern. "Brother, I know you've often misunderstood me over the years. But now that we're grown, we should uphold harmony between brothers. I specially chose this steed for you, yet you won't even look at it? Do you no longer see me as your brother?" His words instantly drew the attention of those nearby. At Zhao Tsongming's subtle prompting, the crowd quickly took Jiang Xing's side, their voices rising. "Your brothers, how can you not even trust him, Jiang Yuan? He's only thinking of you, and yet you treat him so coldly? Such heartlessness. To reject your own brother's goodwill, what kind of man are you?" Jiang Yuan's frown deepened. He hadn't expected Jiang Xing to use such a clever retreat to advance ploy. If he accepted the horse, he would fall into the trap. But if he refused, he would be branded unfeeling and cold-blooded. "Not bad, Jiang Xing finally learned how to use your head, have you?" Just as Jiang Yuan was about to speak and turn the situation around a crisp, bell-like voice rang out from behind them. "This apricot yellow horse is so beautiful. I want it." Both Jiang Yuan and Jiang Xing froze, turning in unison. There stood a young girl in a scarlet dress. The other students, too, noticed her, and when they saw her face, they instantly lowered their heads, their expressions drained of color. For this was none other than the most feared tyrant of Great Zhou, Princess Taiping. To offend her was to invite death, and not even the emperor could save you. Jiang Xing recognized her as well, and his face turned deathly pale. Of all people, why did Princess Taiping appear here? And worse, why did she fancy this apricot yellow horse, the very one he had tampered with? His mind spun with panic. If she mounted this horse and something went wrong, he would be doomed. But if he refused her, this willful, domineering princess would make him suffer an even crueler fate. After a torturous moment of hesitation, Jiang Xing forced himself to speak. "Your Highness, this horse isn't very good. Perhaps you should choose another? There are plenty of others in the yard. You dare defy me? Who do you think you are?" Princess Taiping's face twisted in fury. She stepped forward and kicked Jiang Xing hard in the stomach. He dared not even dodge, screaming in pain as he crumpled to the ground. Clutching his abdomen, he grimaced in agony, but not a single protest dared escape his lips. Princess Taiping, still fuming, jabbed a finger at him and shouted, "Worthless cur! You dare block my way? Men! drag him off and give him a proper beating." At her command, several eunuchs rushed forward, seizing Jiang Xing and hauling him away. Terrified out of his wits, Jiang Xing cried desperately, "Spare me, princess. Please spare me. I didn't mean it, I only..." But before he could finish, the eunuchs gagged him and dragged him off. Princess Taiping gave a cold snort before turning her attention back to the apricot yellow horse. The more she looked, the more she liked it. She reached out and stroked its mane, her eyes sparkling with delight. What a fine horse. Truly a magnificent steed. Her voice brimmed with excitement. Today, I shall ride it. The fearsome reputation of Princess Taiping naturally made others too afraid to block her way. The other students quickly lowered their heads, but Jiang Yuan's gaze lingered on the young girl before him, dressed in a fiery red gown. Beneath the blazing red skirt was a graceful, voluptuous figure. Her enchanting peach blossom eyes carried a hint of allure that could intoxicate anyone. It had to be admitted both Princess Taiping's beauty and her figure were outstanding. In terms of looks alone, she was not inferior even when compared to Su Muying. But what most captured Jiang Yuan's attention were her long legs and the round, full curves of her hips. The shape was like a perfectly ripened peach, flawless. Such an exaggerated waist-to-hip ratio was something Jiang Yuan had only ever seen in blockbuster productions from the island country. He admired the view for quite a while before reluctantly letting his eyes drift upward, and then his eyes widened in disbelief. Wait a second, was this a joke? Such an exaggerated figure. Yet this was supposed to be his good brother? If it weren't for the fact that she was wearing a long gown, Jiang Yuan might have doubted Princess Taiping's very gender. So this was Taiping, /peace, princess, truly living up to the name in the most ironic way. As Jiang Yuan's mind ran with such thoughts, Jiao Xingjing leaned closer and whispered a warning, "Brother Jiang, you'd best stay away from this Princess Taiping. She's not someone you can afford to offend. If you provoke her, the trouble will be endless." Jiang Yuan gave a slight nod, while memories of this princess resurfaced in his mind. This Princess Taiping was the most beloved daughter of the current emperor, yet her fate was exceptionally tragic. In his past life's memories, she was sent away at just 17, forced by the emperor of Great Zhou into a marriage alliance with the Jin to the north. The Jin were a nomadic nation. Though their lives were not entirely primitive, for someone raised in the comforts of the imperial palace, life there was unbearable. But even that alone would not merit the word tragic. Her true misfortune came 2 months after her marriage, when the Jin suddenly tore up their peace treaty with Zhou and marched south, invading Yuzhou. The emperor, known for his petty temper, reportedly lost sleep for days in fury. He immediately dispatched the elite northern garrison to reclaim Yuzhou. The northern garrison was one of Zhou's most formidable armies, and their strength was unquestionable. In just 10 days, they retook 3 cities, slaughtering more than 10,000 enemies. But this slaughter drove the Jin Khan into madness. He ordered his men to bind Princess Taiping on the city wall and stripped her bare. Such humiliation was unbearable to the northern garrison. But as they tried to rescue her, they fell into a trap. Though they managed to annihilate 10 times their number, they too were wiped out in the end. 20,000 soldiers, none survived. After that, Zhou completely lost control of Yuzhou. On court, the emperor erupted in rage, blaming Princess Taiping as a femme fatale who brought disaster while conveniently ignoring the fact that he had failed to reinforce the army. Eventually, he issued an imperial decree. Princess Taiping was deposed, stripped of her title, and branded as disgrace incarnate in the eyes of the people. And the cruelty did not end there. Half a year later, the Jin, seeking an alliance with the Yuan, gifted Princess Taiping as a plaything to the Yuan's grassland tribe. There, she was tormented to death, her young life extinguished in misery. Jiang Yuan's heart grew heavy at the thought. Just then, a sudden cry erupted in front of him. Looking up, he saw the apricot yellow horse beneath Princess Taiping go wild, throwing her violently off its back. "Help!" The princess screamed, tumbling backward helplessly. Without thinking, Jiang Yuan reached out, catching her in his arms. At that instant, a tremendous force hit him, and his lower abdomen felt an astonishing bounce of elasticity. He inhaled sharply. This peach-shaped figure truly lived up to its name. Are you all right? Jiang Yuan looked down at the princess in his arms, asking with genuine concern. Princess Taiping raised her head, catching sight of his handsome face. Her cheeks flushed crimson, her beautiful eyes full of panic and shyness. I'm fine, she murmured like a mosquito's buzz. She tried to stand on her own, but her body had no strength. Let me go. Only then did Jiang Yuan realize how suggestive their posture was. Quickly, he released her and helped her stand. She steadied herself, then immediately stepped back to put distance between them. Her expression returned to icy pride, her voice haughty once more. You saved my life. For that, I will overlook your offense for now. See that you behave yourself. Having said this, she turned away, her eyes blazing as they fixed on Guopijuan. Master Gua, I demand an explanation for this. Guopijuan winced. The Martial Academy occupied a special position in Zhou. Even the emperor himself would not command its masters so lightly. But Princess Taiping was the one exception. Spoiled, willful, yet deeply loved by both the Empress Dowager and the Emperor, she was someone even the Academy's instructors avoided at all costs. And now she had dragged him into trouble. Guopijuan sighed, steeling himself. With a stiff expression, he bowed slightly and said solemnly, Rest assured, Princess. I will see justice done. Yet these horses of the Academy are carefully chosen steeds. Such sudden madness is suspicious. I fear there may be foul play. Princess Taiping waved impatiently. I don't care about suspicions. If your answer doesn't satisfy me, I'll go pull out Uncle Gua's beard myself. Guopijuan sucked in a cold breath. Uncle Gua was his own father, Gua Zheng. If this bratty princess yanked his father's beard, wouldn't he be beaten half to death afterward? The thought made Guopijuan shiver. Even at 40 years old, the fear of his father still lived deep in his bones. He dared not hesitate any longer. Rest assured, Princess. I will investigate this matter to the very end. Only then did Princess Taiping nod with satisfaction. She turned to leave, but as if recalling something, she stopped, pointed at Jiang Yuan, and declared, his horsemanship course grade A. The rest of you? Unqualified. Jiang Yuan wore a bewildered expression. What was going on here? His horsemanship score had actually been rated as A+, and he didn't even need to take the exam? He instinctively turned his head, only to see the other students staring at him with strange looks. Their gazes seemed to say, Kid, you've gotten yourself into trouble, serious trouble. A chill ran through Jiang Yuan's heart. What was happening? He had only saved a princess, right? It shouldn't be such a big deal. He quickly walked over to Jia Xingjing and whispered, Brother Jia, what's happening here? Why is everyone looking at me like that? Jia Xingjing's expression was grave. Lowering his voice, he said, Brother Jiang, you've gotten yourself into big trouble this time. Huh? Jiang Yuan looked blank and couldn't help but ask, I just took the initiative to save someone. Isn't it normal for Princess Taiping to reward me? Normal? Jia Xingjing froze for a moment, then widened his eyes. Brother Jiang, you really don't understand the seriousness of the situation. You don't know. Princess Taiping. She's not just willful and spoiled. But this time, not only did she not whip you, she even helped you. She persuaded Master Gua to give you an A+. Jiang Yuan still couldn't quite understand. Isn't that just because I saved her, so she's grateful? Jia Xingjing took a deep breath and said slowly, Brother Jiang, you still don't understand the princess's nature. Let me put it this way, under normal circumstances, even if you saved her, she would still find all kinds of excuses to give you a lash or two with her whip. But now, she not only didn't punish you, she even helped you. What does that mean to you, compared with everyone else? Jiang Yuan's heart skipped a beat, and he instantly understood Jia Xingjing's meaning. Wait. Could it be that Princess Taiping had taken a liking to him? But he already had a fiancé. And not just anyone, Su Muying, the fierce and heroic daughter of a general. If Su Muying ever found out about this, would he even survive? Jiang Xing saw Jiang Yuan's shifting expression and knew he had realized the danger. He sighed and continued, actually. Princess Taiping is a pitiful person too. This year, His Majesty originally planned to send her off in a political marriage with the aging Khan of the later Jin. It was only after Princess Taiping begged earnestly, saying she represented the dignity of great Zhou and should first study at the Martial Academy, that she won herself a year's reprieve. But after a year, she'll still have to marry into the later Jin to secure peace for great Zhou. Jiang Yuan suddenly understood everything. Combined with memories from his previous life, he couldn't help but sigh inwardly. Truly, no one is more heartless than the imperial family. So the emperor's so-called favor toward Princess Taiping had a price. That favor merely treated her as a tool. His own daughter, in the end, reduced to a bargaining chip for political gain. Wasn't that absurd? A wave of sorrow surged in Jiang Yuan's heart. This princess, who seemed willful and domineering, was in fact a pitiable soul with no control over her fate. While Jiang Yuan was pondering, he suddenly saw a palace maid striding over with several fierce-looking eunuchs. That's him. Arrest him. The maid pointed at Jiang Xing and shouted harshly. The eunuchs lunged forward like wolves and dragged Jiang Xing away. Jiang Xing's face turned pale with terror as he struggled frantically. What are you doing? The princess has already punished me. What more do you want? Let go of me. Put me down, now. Thus, the farce came to an end. Zhao Tsongming managed to escape unscathed, but Jiang Xing wasn't so lucky. Dragged away by the maid serving Princess Taiping, no one knew what awaited him. As for the rest of the classes, Jiang Yuan simply chose to keep a low profile. After sneaking a good nap, he left quickly with Jiang Xing as soon as the dismissal bell rang. But just then, an elderly voice called out behind him, Jiang Yuan, don't be in such a rush to go home. This old man has something to ask you. Jiang Yuan turned back helplessly, facing none other than Master Wu Yong. In the past few days, this Wu Yong had been doggedly chasing after him, always asking whether he remembered any passages from that miscellaneous book. Jiang Yuan had been utterly helpless, so he casually tossed out a few common idioms like besiege way to rescue Zhou and quench thirst by imagining plums. He thought that would be enough to keep Wu Yong busy for a while. But to his surprise, Wu Yong was back again. Jiang Yuan sighed helplessly and said, Master Wu, you really don't need to keep seeking me out. My memory is limited. Whatever I could recall, I've already told you. But Wu Yong seemed to have expected this. Stroking his beard with a smile, he said, don't worry, I understand. Just one more. Tell me one last thing, and I won't ask again. Naturally, Jiang Yuan didn't agree so easily, and the two went back and forth. In the end, Wu Yong was one move ahead, forcing Jiang Yuan to yield. Jiang Yuan sighed deeply, showing an expression of forced contemplation. After a moment, his eyes lit up and he said, Master Wu, I really have racked my brains till there's nothing left. Wu Yong's eyes gleamed. Nodding eagerly, he urged, go on, quickly. What did you recall? This stratagem is called feign repairs of the plank road while secretly marching through Chinsong. Feign repairs of the plank road while secretly marching through Chinsong? Wu Yong repeated it several times under his breath, each time his eyes shining brighter. So that's it. That's it. Such a marvelous tactic. If only, 20 years ago, during Great Zhou's war with the later Jin, this stratagem had been used, perhaps things would not have turned out as they did. At that thought, pain briefly flashed across Wu Yong's face, but it quickly vanished. When he came to himself, he was stunned to find that Jiang Yuan had already slipped away. Wu Yong smiled knowingly, stroking his beard as he muttered, that boy. He's no simple character. Some so-called miscellaneous book? Does he really take me for a fool? If it were just something skimmed from a book. How could he explain it with such depth and clarity? And yet. Wu Yong's gaze flickered with complicated emotions. The emperor tolerated no rivals. This boy was also the son-in-law of the great general's household. If he shone too brightly, his life might be in danger. Perhaps that was why he deliberately concealed his talents. Forget it. This old man will cover for him. And should misfortune befall him someday, I swear, I will protect him with my very life. Dusk was falling. As soon as Jiang Yuan stepped into Chuanfeng Tower, Lady Luo Yan came up with a waft of fragrance, her voice dripping with charm that tugged at the soul. Master, you're finally back. I missed you to death. Jiang Yuan's mouth twitched. Without betraying any emotion, he sidestepped her and walked quickly toward the backyard. Luo Yan, how was business today? She followed closely behind him, and at the mention of business, her eyes lit up. Master, you may not know, but the cloth woven with our cotton is smooth and soft, fits perfectly against the body. The customers are absolutely in love with it. Thanks to you, today's reopening was a smashing success. Those noble ladies were practically throwing money at us to grab the new fabric. The sisters were busy the whole day, and before half a day had passed, we'd already sold out. Jiang Yuan nodded, a stone lifted from his chest. With cotton available, who would still care for hemp cloth? The appearance of cotton was nothing short of a crushing, dimensional strike. Sales were no longer a worry, but cotton supply was a real issue. What's more, there was an unpredictable risk. If someone else discovered Qinghe village's cotton and cut off his supply of raw material, the Chuanfeng Tower he had painstakingly built would collapse overnight. He had to find a way to secure cotton firmly in his own hands, preventing others from meddling. After all, in any era, monopoly is always the most profitable business. Narrowing his eyes, Jiang Yuan already had a plan in mind. He turned to Yan Laolu and asked gravely, over at Qinghe village, can the cotton supply keep up? For now, it's enough. But I worry the total yield is limited. Over time, it might not be enough. Jiang Yuan agreed. That was exactly what he feared. After a short silence, he spoke again, in that case, we'll plant cotton ourselves. Self-produced and self-supplied, then we won't need to worry about raw materials. Yan Laolu still frowned. After a moment's thought, he said, growing our own cotton could work. But master, think carefully, if Jingliang Cloth Guild discovers Qinghe village's cotton, what do you think will happen? Without waiting for Jiang Yuan's reply, he continued, no doubt, Jingliang Cloth Guild is backed by immense resources and powerful patrons. They'll surely slash prices and fight us head-on. By then, our days will turn very hard. Jiang Yuan rubbed his temples, troubled. Though he didn't fear competing with Jingliang, his current foundation was still shallow. Such direct competition could waste precious time and slow down his growth. Elder Yan, what do you suggest? Speak freely. At that, a fierce glint flashed in Yan Laolu's eyes. Why not send men to stir up trouble in Qinghe village so they can't grow cotton at all? Master, rest assured Tiandi society can handle this kind of small matter with ease. Jiang Yuan shook his head firmly. No. That's too crude. It would only harm the people and wouldn't even solve the problem properly. Then, what does Master propose? Yan Laolu scratched his head, worried. Jiang Yuan smiled faintly, his eyes gleaming with brilliance. He had already thought of the solution. We can use grain subsidies. Grain subsidies? Yan Laolu looked bewildered, waiting for further explanation. Jiang Yuan's gaze grew brighter, countless ideas flashing through his mind. Think about it, Qinghe's farmland yields little grain. That's why they plant cotton in the first place, to supplement their income. But if we buy their grain at high prices, won't they abandon cotton and go back to planting grain? Yan Laolu's eyes lit up and he slapped his thigh. Brilliant, master. Truly brilliant. As long as we offer a high enough price, those villagers will definitely choose grain over cotton, willingly giving it up. This way, we don't have to clash head-on with Jingliang Cloth Guild, yet still keep cotton firmly in our control. Absolutely killing two birds with one stone. The more he spoke, the more excited he became. His gaze toward Jiang Yuan turned almost feverish. It seemed this young lord of Jiang Marquis household was far more formidable than he had ever imagined. Not that it was too surprising. Anyone who could redesign a loom, earning even Master Lu's admiration, could hardly be ordinary. But still. Why did Jiang Yuan conceal his true capabilities so deeply? Could it be he harbored some unspoken ambition? At the thought, Yan Lalio's eyes turned complicated. The son of a marquis household, son-in-law of the great general's mansion, he could have lived in indulgence, yet quietly built enormous wealth instead. What did that signify? Could it be that Jiang Yuan's plans coincided with the very secret schemes Tiandi society was plotting? If his guess was right, then Jiang Yuan's intentions were truly terrifying. With his talent, should he ally with Tiandi society, they would soar like a tiger with wings. The leader, that old fox, would likely be too thrilled to sleep at night. But if he reported Jiang Yuan's actions to the leader, that would mean betrayal. Meanwhile, at Jiang Marquis mansion, amidst endless cries of agony, Jiang Xing was carried back to the estate. He lay face down on the bed, his backside a bloody mess. The Marquis of Jiang stood at the bedside, tears streaming as he looked at his son's pitiful state. "Xinger, what happened? Who beat you like this?" With a bitter face, Jiang Xing exaggerated today's events at the Martial Academy, piling blame onto Jiang Yuan and painting himself as an innocent victim. The Marquis trembled with fury at the tale. Slamming the table, he roared, "Jiang Yuan! That unfilial wretch! How dare he treat you this way? Outrageous! Guards! Bring that traitor here at once, I'll teach him a lesson." At those words, Jiang Xing shuddered. In his panic earlier, he had fabricated quite a lot. But matters at the Martial Academy could easily be verified by asking anyone. His lies would crumble instantly. As the future top scholar, how could he make such a rookie mistake? So he hurriedly shook his head, putting on an air of magnanimity. "Father, let it go. I don't think elder brother meant it. We are family, after all. There's no need to quibble over such things. Father, please don't get so worked up. It's not worth ruining your health." Jiang Xing pretended to console, though a glimmer of smugness flashed in his eyes. The more displeased his father was with Jiang Yuan, the more benefits he, Jiang Xing, stood to gain. Marquis Jiang took a deep breath. His anger surged to the point that he couldn't suppress it, and he broke into a fit of gut-wrenching coughs. Cough, cough, cough. "Xinger, don't worry. Father will see justice done for you. Oh, right, our family still has 2 vacant shops in the inner city. It's a waste to just let them sit idle. I've decided to entrust them to you. Would you be willing to manage them?" Hearing this, Jiang Xing's heart leapt with delight. Sure enough, his dutiful son persona was paying off. With Lu Jing constantly draining him like a leech, his finances had been stretched thin lately. And here at Wash had barely been nodding off when father handed him a pillow. He dropped to his knees at once, his face brimming with gratitude. "Thank you for father's trust. Your son will not fail your expectations and will manage the shops well." Marquis Jiang nodded in satisfaction. "Good. Father believes in you. Think of these 2 shops as training grounds. Do well, and in the future you can contribute to the family's standing. Your son will follow father's teachings. I'll run the shops properly and bring glory to the family." The next morning, Jiang Yuan rose early. As soon as he stepped out of his courtyard, he noticed that the servants in the manor were all casting him peculiar looks. Jiang Yuan frowned in puzzlement. Did he have something on his face? He touched his cheeks but found nothing unusual. Just as he was about to head out, he discovered that the carriage he normally used was missing. That's strange. Where's the carriage? He furrowed his brows and asked casually. A servant ducked his head and stammered, "Are reporting to young master." The carriage. Second young master took it. Jiang Yuan's brows rose. Jiang Xing again? Just as he thought. Still, he said nothing. It was only a carriage, after all. Without it, he could simply walk to the Martial Academy. He set out on foot, but soon the sound of hooves approached from behind. Turning, he saw a familiar carriage pull up in front of him. The curtain lifted, revealing Su Muying's icy expression. "Get in." Jiang Yuan blinked, inwardly muttering. Strange. Why was Su Muying acting so cold toward him today? He hadn't done anything to provoke her, had he? Though puzzled, Jiang Yuan didn't dwell on it. He climbed aboard. The carriage set off toward the martial academy. Inside, the air was heavy. Several times Jiang Yuan thought of speaking, but each time Su Muying's frosty demeanor made him swallow his words. What was with her today? Had she taken the wrong medicine? The silent journey ended quickly. The carriage stopped at the academy gates. As Jiang Yuan stepped down, countless eyes instantly fixed on him. Those gazes carried astonishment, suspicion, envy and even jealousy. His confusion only deepened, though he still couldn't figure out why. Just then, Jiao Xing appeared in his line of sight. The moment Jia saw him, he reacted like a mouse spotting a cat turning on his heel to flee. But Jiang Yuan was quicker. He grabbed Jia's arm. "Brother Jia, what are you running for?" Jia pulled a bitter face, his lips twitching. "Brother Jiang, please. Just spare me. I don't want to be dragged down by you." Jiang Yuan's eyes narrowed, his grip tightening. "What do you mean by that? How have I dragged you down?" Realizing he couldn't escape, Jia steeled himself and spoke. "Brother Jiang, you really don't know yet? Yesterday Princess Taiping made a huge scene in the imperial harem because of you. Now the entire capital is buzzing with it saying Princess Taiping wants to marry you." "What?" Jiang Yuan's eyes went wide. What kind of nonsense was this? Princess Taiping wanted to marry him? Impossible. They had only met a handful of times. Besides, he already had a fiancée, Su Muying, the formidable daughter of the general's household. If Su Muying found out about this, he'd be in for hell. Jiang Yuan felt his head spin. "Brother Jia. You're not joking, are you?" Jia shook his head, looking at him with sympathy. "How could I dare joke about something like this? The entire city already knows. Do you think I'd risk jesting over such a matter? And... Jia trailed off, glancing nervously around. "And what? And... I heard that last night His Majesty stayed in his study instead of returning to the harem. The reason was supposedly because of this very issue." Jiang Yuan was completely dumbfounded. Princess Taiping raising a ruckus in the harem, the emperor spending the night in his study. What did any of this have to do with him? Could it really be because he had once saved Princess Taiping, and now she'd developed feelings for him? But that was far too absurd. His temples throbbed with pain. Rubbing his brow, he asked, "Brother Jia, you're certain this is true?" "Without a doubt." Jia nodded. "Everyone's saying Princess Taiping insists on marrying you. Brother Jiang, you'd better pray for yourself." With a look of pity, Jia patted his shoulder. "Oh, and... Brother Jiang, did you come here today in Su Muying's carriage? You're braver than I thought." Having said his piece, Jia darted into the martial academy, leaving Jiang Yuan standing there, stunned. He had never imagined he would get caught up in such a mess. Princess Taiping wanting to marry him? That was more far-fetched than a fairy tale. He took a deep breath, forcing himself to calm down. Right now, the most pressing matter was figuring out how to resolve this and how to explain it to Su Muying. After all, she was his real fiancée. Just the thought of it gave him another headache. Steeling himself, Jiang Yuan entered the academy. Immediately, every gaze in the hall locked onto him. Even the instructors regarded him with strange expressions. He frowned, sat down, and began to mull over the situation. The more he thought, the more he sensed something fishy about it all. Based on what he knew of Su Muying's temperament these past few days, if she had truly heard Princess Taiping wanted to marry him, she should have been livid. And Su Muying's way of venting anger was simple, beating him up. Yet not only had she not struck him today, she had even brought him here in her carriage. Her attitude was cold, yes, but knowing Su Muying's character, this didn't add up at all. Something was off. Really off. Jiang Yuan scratched his head, a trace of doubt flashing in his eyes. Just as he was wondering whether to explain things to Su Muying after class, a deep, aged voice suddenly sounded from the lectern. Students, the next lesson will be taught by me. A simple introduction, my surname is Li, given name Chunfeng. I am but a man of letters. Li Chunfeng? The students present all showed puzzled expressions. That name. It felt oddly familiar. Wait a second, wasn't Li Chunfeng the name of the commoner sword saint? Could it be? The students' eyes widened in shock, their faces filled with disbelief. The commoner sword saint Li Chunfeng? It's really him. Jiang Yuan's heart surged with waves as well. He had never imagined that the lecturer at the Martial Academy today would be none other than this legendary figure. According to Jiang Yuan's memories, Li Chunfeng, the commoner sword saint, was hailed as the greatest swordsman of the great Zhou dynasty. His swordsmanship had already reached the realm of the divine, standing at the very peak of the sword path. It was said that years ago, when Western Liang invaded Great Zhou's borders, slaughtering and plundering unchecked, their mighty general Hutch led his iron cavalry and captured city after city, arrogant beyond measure. The Zhou armies were routed in defeat after defeat, morale collapsing. The nation nearly broken. In that desperate moment, Li Chunfeng stepped forth. Clad in nothing but plain clothes, carrying only a single sword, he infiltrated the enemy camp alone. Even though Hutch was surrounded by over 100 elite guards, Li Chunfeng still severed his head and returned unscathed. When word spread, the world was shaken. From then on, Li Chunfeng became famous with a single battle, honored as the commoner sword saint, his name echoing across the land. Jiang Yuan drew in a deep breath, working hard to steady his excitement. He knew well that the saying "pluck the enemy generals had amidst 10,000 troops" was likely exaggerated. After all, humans were still flesh and blood. No martial art could truly transcend mortal limits. But even so, Li Chunfeng's strength was beyond question. To be able to slay an enemy commander under such circumstances, his martial skill was undoubtedly at the apex of what mortals could achieve. To think that today, I'd actually see this living legend. Jiang Yuan sighed inwardly, glancing around. The other students were just as wide-eyed and stunned. Clearly, all of them had heard of Li Chunfeng's fame. Silence. Standing tall at the lectern, Li Chunfeng's gaze swept like lightning across the hall. His voice was calm, not loud, yet carried an undeniable authority. At once, the Martial Academy grew quiet. Li Chunfeng gave a faint smile and said, "I know what you are wondering. Why would I appear here today? You think I've come to teach you swordsmanship, don't you?" He paused, letting his eyes linger on the young faces before him. "You imagine yourselves like I once was, wandering the world with sword in hand, living free and unrestrained? You too wish to be heroes, names sung across the realm?" The students' expressions immediately turned fervent. Young men in fine robes and gallant spirit who wouldn't yearn to roam the world as a sword-wielding hero? Yes. We want to learn swordsmanship. Sir. Please teach us. We want to become heroes like you. The hall erupted in eager voices, brimming with longing. But looking at them, Li Chunfeng's eyes revealed a complicated light. After a moment's silence, he slowly shook his head, his tone tinged with melancholy. Abandon that thought. I will not teach you swordsmanship. I sealed my sword long ago. In this life, I shall never wield it again. Today, I came only to lecture you on the classics of the sages. What? The students were thrown into uproar. Never had they imagined that the sword saint would say such a thing. A sword saint, refusing to teach swordsmanship yet here to teach the Confucian classics instead? Those abstruse writings? Who cared about them? Nothing but the empty drivel of pedants. Disappointment and disdain quickly spread across their faces. The classics are just toys for impoverished scholars to amuse themselves with. We came to learn military arts, not Confucian essays. Sir, aren't you mistaken? The complaints piled one upon another, voices full of letdown. They had believed that meeting the sword saint might earn them even a single word of guidance, perhaps even the chance to receive his legacy. But now, all they got was, no swordsmanship. Only books. How could they accept that? Yet Li Chunfeng was not angered. He only said calmly, I know you feel no interest in the classics of the sages. You think them useless. This is the Martial Academy, not the Imperial College, so why learn them here? You don't want to become frail, ink-stained scholars, isn't that so? His words pierced straight to their hearts. The students nodded vigorously, their faces saying exactly so. We will enter the army in the future, to command soldiers in battle. What use are the classics then? Are we supposed to move the enemy with words? This drew laughter and nods from many. Exactly. We came to learn war, not words. We want to be generals, to defend our country, not weak scholars who can't even lift a chicken. Sir, please teach us the sword instead. But Li Chunfeng's expression remained unchanged, unmoved by their protests. He waited until the noise subsided before speaking again. Slow and steady, since you are all so convinced that the classics of the sages are worthless. Then I have but one question for you. At those words, his eyes suddenly flared with sharp light, his entire presence shifting. In that instant, he seemed less a man than a drawn sword, a blade of unmatched edge that none dared meet directly. Tell me then, students, where does military strategy come from? The question fell, and silence reigned. Yet Li Chunfeng's aura only grew sharper, heavier, pressing down on every heart. Until at last, his voice rang out like steel, so you mean to deny that the very military texts you revere are themselves rooted in the classics of the sages? Inside the martial training hall, the students instantly fell silent. Deep down, they all understood that military treatises ultimately originated from the works of scholars. In fact, from a certain perspective, military strategy books were themselves a type of scholarly classic. They just refused to admit it. After all, in the eyes of most nobles, so-called scholars were nothing but pedantic bookwormsmen who spent their days muttering "ji hu ji yi" and composing pointless poems. But since the one speaking was Li Chunfeng, they dared not utter a word of rebuttal. Li Chunfeng's gaze was as sharp as a sword, boring into them. His voice was low, steady, yet carried great force. Are military treatises not written by scholars? You mouth disdain for the learned, yet remain ignorant that the very military laws and stratagems you worship all came from scholars' hands. Knowing only brute force without adaptability, such men are nothing but brawny fools. He paused. His eyes, like blades, pricked at the students' eyelids, making them twitch with pain. His tone grew ever more severe. If you wish to lead armies and become true generals, you must immerse yourselves in literature, understand reason, and know advance from retreat. And as for the claim that scholars are weak and frail? At this point, a mocking smile curved at Li Chunfeng's lips. I began my studies at the age of 3, mastered the classics and histories by my youth, and earned the title of Jinshi at 20. I am a scholar, through and through. Since you say scholars are weak, do you dare to spar with me? The moment these words fell, the martial training hall went utterly silent. The students glanced at one another, but none dared respond. What a joke! Spar with the cloth-garbed sword saint? That was just asking for a beating. Everyone knew Li Chunfeng's sword was swift as lightning, fierce and unmatched. Forget these greenhorn students, even veteran commanders who had survived countless battles weren't his match for a single round. A true scholar can wield the brush to bring peace to the world, and mount the horse to secure the realm. Jiang Yuan muttered softly, with a hint of emotion in his tone. In the times of the Han and Tang, scholars were indeed like this. Among the 6 arts of a gentleman were horsemanship and archery. But as feudalism deepened, scholars gradually abandoned martial skill, immersing themselves only in reading and writing. In Great Zhou today, such was the scholar's condition. Though seemingly specialized, in Jiang Yuan's eyes, such scholars were nothing more than parrots reciting books. That was why he couldn't help but sigh aloud. Yet he never imagined that his faint words would reach Li Chuanfeng's ears as clear as day. Li Chunfeng abruptly turned, eyes blazing like lightning, locking onto Jiang Yuan. His previously calm gaze suddenly erupted with fiery brilliance, his very breath quickening. Good. What a fine line, with the brush, one brings peace to the world, on horseback, one secures the realm. Li Chunfeng strode toward Jiang Yuan in great steps, scrutinizing him from head to toe, admiration shining in his eyes. I did not expect that among this group of fools, one such genius would emerge. It seems my trip to the martial training hall was not in vain. What the hell? The other students were dumbstruck at Li Chuanfeng's words. Impossible. That Jiang Yuan, a mere bastard son of a fallen Marquis household, had actually gained the favor of yet another instructor of the martial training hall? This wasn't fair. How could Jiang Yuan possibly catch the eyes of both Master Wu Yong and Li Chunfeng? The students could hardly believe it. They rubbed their eyes fiercely, trying to see what was so special about Jiang Yuan. Could it be? Could he actually be a genius? But there was no way to tell. For a moment, countless complicated gazes converged on Jiang Yuan. And at the center of attention, Jiang Yuan wished he could crawl into a hole in the ground. He even felt like slapping himself across the face. Great. Once again, he had become the target of all arrows. He cursed inwardly. This damn mouth of his, why couldn't it just stay shut? Now Li Chunfeng had his eyes on him. So much for keeping a low profile. That possibility had now shrunk to near zero. At this rate, he feared he'd be executed by the emperor long before he ever married Su Muying. And then Su Muying really would become a young widow. The more he thought about it, the more his heart trembled with dread. No. This couldn't go on. He had to divert attention somehow. And the best way was play dumb. So Jiang Yuan deliberately put on a blank face and asked, Master, I don't understand what you're talking about. But Li Chunfeng wasn't buying it. He seemed to see right through Jiang Yuan, a faint smile tugging at his lips. Someone who can utter such words as with the brush, peace to the world, on horseback, security to the realm, how could that be said casually? What is your name? At that, Jiang Yuan's heart skipped a beat. Crap. Looks like escape is impossible this time. Taking a deep breath, he forced himself to remain calm. This student's name is Jiang Yuan. Only before he could finish, Li Chunfeng cut him off. Jiang Yuan, is it? Would you be willing to take me as your master? The martial training hall instantly fell into a deathly hush. Every student stared, eyes wide and jaws slack with disbelief. Take him as a disciple? The cloth-garbed sword saint wanted to take Jiang Yuan as his disciple? This was the opportunity of a lifetime. Everyone knew that Li Chunfeng was a living legend of the great Zhou. His swordsmanship had long since transcended the mortal realm. To become his disciple, that was the dream of countless people. If Jiang Yuan truly became Li Chuanfeng's student, his future would be boundless. At once, every student looked upon Jiang Yuan with eyes full of envy, jealousy, and hatred. They wished they were the ones chosen instead. Yet Jiang Yuan's reaction was utterly unexpected. He wasn't ecstatic. He didn't rush to accept. Instead, he pulled a face like a man who had suffered the world's greatest misfortune. Master, please don't joke. I am not qualified at all. Jiang Yuan's lips twitched into a bitter smile. Take him as a master? What kind of nonsense? With trouble swarming all around him, how could he possibly afford to think about apprenticeship? Li Chuanfeng's brows furrowed, displeasure flashing in his eyes. He, the famed cloth-garbed sword saint, had taken the initiative to offer discipleship only to be refused? It was hard for him to swallow. Jiang Yuan could feel the sharp aura radiating from Li Chunfeng pressing down on him. But he knew even more clearly, if he became Li Chuanfeng's disciple, there would be no way left to hide himself. The tallest tree is the first to be felled. Jiang Yuan understood this truth perfectly. And he had no wish to be exposed before his preparations were complete. Such high-profile attention did not suit him at all. Thinking this, Jiang Yuan braced himself and shook his head firmly. I thank you, master, for your favor. But I am shallow in learning and have no interest in swordsmanship. So I must sincerely apologize. What? Jiang Yuan actually refused to become the disciple of the cloth-garbed sword saint? That idiot, could it be he doesn't even know that Li Chunfeng is the cloth-garbed sword saint? How can such a blind fool even be our classmate? It's simply a disgrace to all of us. Tell me, what on earth did Mr. Li Chunfeng see in Jiang Yuan? Surely he didn't take a fancy to him because he's a useless good-for-nothing, right? The students present all erupted in heated discussion. Meanwhile, Jiang Yuan's heart was full of unease. The aura radiating from Li Chunfeng was as sharp as a blade, piercing his very skin like needles. If not for his exceptionally strong willpower, he would have crumbled under it long ago. What he failed to notice, however, was that Li Chunfeng's expression only grew more and more delighted. This boy truly wasn't simple. Though he feigned ignorance before the old man, his mental fortitude betrayed his real strength. To withstand the sword heart of the old man for so long, such a person was 1 in 10,000, an absolute genius. At this thought, a trace of complexity flashed across Li Chunfeng's face. He did not know that Jiang Yuan was the illegitimate son of the Marquis' household, nor that he was the son-in-law of the great general's Manor. But a man of letters and arms such as Li Chunfeng was no fool. He quickly realized Jiang Yuan's pretense of ignorance likely came from deeper concerns. It was never Li Chunfeng's intention to force others, he merely cherished talent. Since this boy wished to conceal his brilliance, the old man would not press him. He could always approach him in private, later. Hee. A sudden smile flickered across Li Chunfeng's weathered face, but in the next breath he put on a stern expression, his voice cold. Very well. Since you are blind to opportunity, the old man shall not stoop to your level. Enough for today, this old man will waste some words to lecture you all on the wonders of the classics. An entire hour later, Li Chunfeng finally stopped, still reluctant to end his lecture. The dismissal bell rang. Jiang Yuan practically bolted out of the hall without looking back. The martial hall was far too terrifying. For the sake of his own life, perhaps he should feign illness and avoid coming these next few days? As for the examinations. What exam could possibly be more important than staying alive? Just as he was making this decision, he accidentally stumbled into something soft. Who dared block this young master's path? Jiang Yuan frowned, lifting his gaze, and instantly froze. Princess, your highness. Why are you what? You bumped into me, and still expect me to apologize? Princess Taiping's tone was calm. But the corners of her eyes carried a faint smile. Realizing she wasn't angry, Jiang Yuan secretly sighed in relief. But on the surface, he put on an anxious, respectful expression and quickly said, Please forgive me, your highness. I was careless and collided with you. I beg your pardon. Very well then. This palace shall be magnanimous, and let you off this once. Princess Taiping's lips curved into a smile, her eyes roaming up and down Jiang Yuan as if appraising him. Her gaze made his skin crawl, and Jiang Yuan decided not to linger a moment longer. He cupped his hands and made to leave. Many thanks, princess. I still have matters to attend to, so I'll take my leave first. But just as he turned, her cold voice cut through the air. This palace has yet to finish speaking. Are you in such a hurry to run off? Jiang Yuan's heart tightened. He had just opened his mouth to respond when take him away, Princess Taiping ordered with a flick of her hand. Yes, your highness. Two guards immediately stepped forward, seizing Jiang Yuan firmly on either side. Hey, what are you doing? Let go of me. Jiang Yuan struggled, but how could his strength compare with theirs? Princess, what is the meaning of this? Surely we can talk this over peacefully? Seeing him panic, Princess Taiping's lips curved into a playful smile. Don't be so nervous. This palace isn't going to eat you alive. Just be obedient, and accompany me for a little trip. Before Jiang Yuan could ask further, a guard gagged him, pulled a hood over his head, and shoved him into a carriage. Not far away, Jiao Xing watched the carriage roll off into the distance and let out a helpless sigh. Brother Jiang, don't blame me. It's not that I didn't want to help, but the one you provoked is someone I truly cannot afford to cross. Rest assured, if you survive Her Highness's torment, I'll be sure to come visit you. Inside the martial hall, many students had witnessed the terrifying scene. They saw Jiang Yuan carried away, each wearing a different expression. No way. Princess Taiping really has her eye on Jiang Yuan? Looks like it. Didn't you see how she had him dragged off? You think Jiang Yuan's going to survive? That's Princess Taiping we're talking about, the infamous manslaying demoness. Shoo. Do you have a death wish? Even daring to speak of the princess so carelessly? Sigh. I may dislike Jiang Yuan, but he's still our classmate. To suffer such a fate. What a pity. If you ask me, he's got it lucky. Dying beneath the peony blossom, there are worse ways to go. Inside the carriage, Jiang Yuan sat with a black hood over his head, unable to see a thing. Yet instead of panicking, his mind was calmly at work. Could it be that Princess Taiping truly fancied him? So much so that she intended to take him by force? Well, if she did, it wasn't exactly a loss for him. The only problem was, how would he explain it to Su Muying later? But surely, given his utter lack of choice in the matter, Muying would understand his helplessness. Right? Just as he was comforting himself with this thought, something strange struck him. By rights, if he had been abducted at the martial hall gates, Su Muying would certainly know. And if she knew, she would definitely attempt a rescue. Which meant he actually had nothing to worry about. His fear completely vanished. Yet another puzzling thought surfaced. When he bumped into the princess earlier, why had it felt so soft? That couldn't be right. Princess Taiping was rather flat. How could he have run into something soft? The more Jiang Yuan thought about it, the stranger it seemed. But he couldn't figure it out. Forget it. No use overthinking. Better to focus on how to escape. About half an hour later, the carriage finally halted. The guards dragged Jiang Yuan out, removed the hood. Blinking against the sudden light, he took in his surroundings. It was an extravagantly decorated residence, carved beams, painted rafters, rock gardens with flowing streams, every detail exquisite. The air was filled with the fragrance of flowers and greenery. What was this place? Jiang Yuan frowned, calculating. Half an hour by carriage, surely they were still within the capital. Jiang Yuan, what do you think of this place? A familiar voice sounded from behind. Turning, he saw Princess Taiping standing there, smiling brightly at him. Your Highness, this is... He began to ask, but she cut him off. This is my private estate. Well, not bad, right? She stepped closer, her smile widening. Jiang Yuan. Would you be willing to take me away from here, and elope with me? What? The Princess Taiping actually wanted to elope with him? Jiang Yuan's eyes widened in utter disbelief. No, what kind of joke was this? A dignified princess of the empire, wanting to elope with a lowly Marquis illegitimate son? This Princess Taiping, how could she be so capricious and willful? And yet, she still managed to win the emperor's favor? Jiang Yuan really couldn't understand how the emperor could like someone like her. If she were his daughter, he would have broken her legs already. However, if the emperor truly liked her, he wouldn't have sent her off to marry into the later Jin. At that thought, Jiang Yuan's gaze toward Princess Taiping softened a little. He shook his head and took the initiative to speak. Your Highness, I am already betrothed. I'm afraid I cannot take you away with me. If you wish to escape your cage, you had better seek someone more suitable. Princess Taiping froze slightly, then a look of astonishment flashed across her flawless face. She pointed at her own cheek, leaned close to Jiang Yuan, and asked in disbelief, Don't tell me. Your fiancé is more beautiful than me? Jiang Yuan looked at the stunning face so close to his own and couldn't help but silently marvel. Putting everything else aside, in terms of beauty, Princess Taiping was absolutely top tier in the entire Great Zhou. Even compared to Su Muying, they were evenly matched, each had her own kind of radiance. Jiang Yuan thought for a moment, just about to speak, when he suddenly noticed something on the table not far away, 2 teacups. Steam still rose from them. Clearly, someone had been sitting there not long ago. And not just one person, but 2. But this was Princess Taiping's private residence. How could there be anyone else here? And anyone qualified to drink tea with her would at least have to be her guest. A thought suddenly struck Jiang Yuan's mind. Could it be? He glanced again at the steaming teacups, and a bold suspicion rose in his heart. Could Su Muying and Princess Taiping actually know each other? The thought made a shiver run through him. If Su Muying was hiding, just like last time, behind a screen listening in, then he absolutely couldn't speak carelessly. If he said the wrong thing and angered Su Muying, the consequences would be disastrous. No. He had to show his loyalty. Realizing how serious the situation was, Jiang Yuan took a deep breath, forcing himself to stay calm. He raised his head, looked at Princess Taiping with a firm gaze, and said earnestly, "Your Highness, though you are as beautiful as a celestial maiden, Muying is unique in my heart. She not only has exquisite looks, but more importantly, she possesses a kind heart and a brave spirit. Between us, it is not just a marriage contract. To be frank, I have long since fallen for her. In this lifetime I, Jiang Yuan, will marry no one but Su Muying." These words rang out sonorously, a clear and resolute refusal to Princess Taiping. Under normal circumstances, the princess should have exploded with anger. But instead, her beautiful face showed not a trace of fury, rather, there was surprise. "Oh? You've quite the courage, daring to so bluntly profess your love for another woman in front of me?" Princess Taiping looked at Jiang Yuan with great interest, as if finding him even more amusing. Jiang Yuan, however, secretly breathed a sigh of relief. It seemed his move had been the right one. "Your Highness, every word I spoke comes from the heart, without the slightest falsehood. My love for Muying is witnessed by sun and moon, vouched for by heaven and earth." Princess Taiping's smile only deepened. She slowly stepped closer, extended a slender finger, and gently lifted Jiang Yuan's chin. "Jiang Yuan, you are indeed very interesting. I find myself liking you more and more. But don't worry, I won't force you into anything. Since your feelings for Muying run so deep, then I shall grant you to my blessing." With that, she suddenly turned toward the seemingly empty room and called aloud, "Muying, you heard him, didn't you? You've chosen a fine match. In that case, I can rest easy." As her words fell, a figure slowly stepped out from behind the screen. It was Su Muying. Her pretty face was tinged with crimson, her eyes shimmering with shyness as she shot Jiang Yuan a fierce glare. Clearly, Jiang Yuan's bold confession just now had startled her. The moment Jiang Yuan saw her, his heart jolted in shock. So it was true. Su Muying really had been hiding behind the screen. Thank heavens he had reacted quickly and declared his feelings, otherwise, the consequences would have been unimaginable. He hurriedly walked up to her and asked with concern, "Muying, why are you here?" Su Muying gave him an exasperated glance and snapped, "All because of you. If I hadn't rushed over, you might have already been tricked away by this she-demon." Jiang Yuan instantly put on a look of grievance. "Muying, you can't wrong me like this. I am utterly loyal to you. With no second thoughts whatsoever. I was bound, this wasn't my idea at all." Looking at his pitiful expression, Su Muying couldn't help but burst out in laughter. All right, I believe you, okay? But from now on, you can't act so rashly again. If you offend Her Highness, I won't be able to save you." Jiang Yuan nodded rapidly, looking as obedient as could be. "Rest assured, Muying. From now on, I'll be careful with my words and never stir up trouble again." Only then did Su Muying nod with satisfaction. She turned to Princess Taiping and said, Taiping, do you believe me now? I believe. When have I ever doubted you? Princess Taiping suddenly broke into a radiant smile, blooming like a rose in full splendor. Such beauty made Jiang Yuan steal a few extra glances, though he hid it well enough that Su Muing didn't notice. But after that smile, a trace of hesitation clouded the princess's perfect face. She looked at Su Muing with uncharacteristic seriousness. Muing, are you truly certain? Jiang Yuan is your betrothed, but still. Before she could finish, hurried footsteps sounded outside. A young maidservant rushed in, her face pale with fright. Your Highness, terrible news. His Majesty is in a rage today, wants to have you seized and placed under house arrest. They say the envoys of later Jin will arrive in the capital next month. By His Majesty's decree, you are to be sent away to them as early as next month. What should we do? The moment Princess Taiping heard this, all color drained from her face. She cast Jiang Yuan a deep glance, then abruptly turned away and walked toward the study. Muing, take your fiancé and leave. Father's will is set. Neither of you can help me now. Your Highness, the princess. Jiang Yuan had just opened his mouth when Su Muing suddenly pulled him away. Go. Her delicate face was frosty, her beautiful eyes filled with urgency. Without giving him a chance to ask more, she dragged Jiang Yuan quickly out of the side courtyard. Although puzzled, Jiang Yuan knew this wasn't the time to press her. He let Su Muing lead him away at a brisk pace. The two of them hurried back to the general's manor. Only then did Su Muing release his hand. Turning to face him, her expression was grave. Jiang Yuan, there are matters you cannot involve yourself in. Princess Taiping's fate was sealed the moment she was born. A political marriage, isn't it? Jiang Yuan frowned. He naturally understood the implications of such a union. Yes. Su Muing nodded, a trace of helplessness flickering in her eyes. An imperial command cannot be defeated, no one can change it. In the coming days, you must be extra careful. She paused mid-sentence, hesitated, as if holding something back, then finally chose not to say more. Jiang Yuan's heart sank. He understood what she was worried about. The matter of Princess Taiping would surely entangle him as well. After all, he had interacted with her at the Martial Academy. And worse, she had even abducted him to a private residence. If malicious people chose to exploit this, the consequences would be disastrous. I understand, Jiang Yuan said, his expression unusually stern. I'll be careful. At Kuning Tower, one of the grandest restaurants in the capital. Inside a private room on the second floor, Zhao Tsongming frowned as he looked at Jiang Xing, who was lying weakly on a soft couch. Cousin, let me ask you, are the rumors spreading in the capital lately you're doing? Jiang Xing looked worn out. Though the wounds on his backside had scabbed over, sharp pains still flared up from time to time. Hearing Zhao Tsongming's words, he didn't even dare lift his head. What rumors? I don't know anything about them. The talk that Jiang Yuan and Princess Taiping have pledged themselves to each other, is that from you? Zhao Tsongming's tone was grave, his gaze fixed on Jiang Xing. Only then did Jiang Xing slowly open his eyes. Panic flashed in them for a brief instant, but he quickly masked it. Cousin, you mustn't speak carelessly. This matter truly has nothing to do with me. I'm not a madman, how could I dare spread slander about a princess? Zhao Tsongming studied him for a long moment, brow still knitted. Inside, Jiang Xing sneered coldly, though his face feigned innocence. Of course he wouldn't admit it. Besides, he was a reborn man. To find a few people to spread rumors was nothing more than lifting a finger. And more importantly, to be entangled with Princess Taiping. Jiang Yuan, oh Jiang Yuan, let's see if you can escape this time. Perhaps one imperial fit of rage, and your head will be gone. As this thought gave him satisfaction, Zhao Tsongming's stern voice broke in, Cousin, I advise you to behave wisely. This matter has already reached His Majesty's ears. The Emperor is furious. The palace will not remain calm. At that, a mad gleam flashed in Jiang Xing's eyes. Good. The more chaos, the better. He would see Jiang Yuan ruined forever, never to rise again. In the imperial palace, imperial study. The emperor of Great Zhou sat upon the dragon throne, face dark with rage. Before him knelt the chief eunuch, Su Mao. Outrageous. The emperor slammed the desk, his face turning crimson with fury. That unfilial girl, Taiping. I've treated her so well, and yet she dares be so willful. I only asked her to marry for the sake of the realm, not to die. And she dares claim to have pledged herself to a mere concubine's son? She has utterly disgraced the royal family. Su Mao trembled on his knees, not daring to breathe. He knew well that when the emperor was in such a rage, a single misplaced word could cost him his head. Serving by the emperor's side for years had taught him the art of survival. Wisely, he avoided mentioning the princess at all. Instead, he spoke with feigned concern, "Your Majesty, please calm yourself. Your health is paramount." Calm myself? How do you expect me to calm down? The emperor's fury was unlike his usual composed self. My face, my dignity, has been utterly shamed. Pass down my command, seize Princess Taiping and place her under house arrest. When the later Jin envoy arrives, she is to be sent off at once as part of the marriage pact. At that moment, a junior eunuch hurried in. Your Majesty, Princess Taiping has returned. Zhao Zhen's eyes lit up with delight. Bring her in. Moments later, Princess Taiping walked slowly into the study. Once vibrant, youthful, and willful, her face now carried no expression. Her eyes were hollow, as though her spirit had fled. Daughter greets Father Emperor. She knelt with calm voice. The emperor's gaze softened briefly, but almost instantly hardened again into anger. Taiping, do you admit your fault? She said nothing, merely knelt in silence, awaiting judgment. Her stillness only inflamed his temper further. Foolish girl. Do you realize you've disgraced the royal house? You already had a betrothal, yet you consorted with another man. Tell me, did you lose your purity? Know this, the later Jin placed great value on a woman's chastity. Do not ruin my plans. At these words, Taiping's body trembled faintly. Slowly, she raised her head to look at the man before her. Was this truly the same father who had once showered her with love? Why did he now seem so utterly foreign? Father Emperor. In your eyes, am I nothing more than a tool? Her voice quivered. For the sake of your empire, you would sacrifice your daughter's happiness so easily? The emperor's face darkened instantly. Insolence. I am your father, and the emperor of Great Zhou. All I do is for the sake of this dynasty. As a princess, your duty is to serve the state. At these words, Taiping gave a bitter laugh, then closed her eyes. Father Emperor, I understand. The imperial family truly is cold and unfeeling. Your daughter will obey. As for the matter you worry about, Father Emperor may rest assured. With that, she slowly rose, turned, and left the study. Her departing figure looked achingly lonely, steeped in desolation. The emperor's gaze lingered, a flicker of reluctance flashing in his heart, but he quickly crushed it down. Su Mao. Pass down my decree. Princess Taiping is to be confined. Without my permission, no one may see her. Furthermore, increase the guards. Ensure there are no mishaps. Your servant obeys. Su Mao kowtowed and withdrew. After parting with Su Muing, Jiang Yuan returned to the Marquis Zhong's residence with little interest or spirit. Was Princess Taiping arrogant and willful? That was obvious. But if asked whether Princess Taiping was inherently a bad person, Jiang Yuan's answer would be, no. After all, if Princess Taiping were truly evil, she would not have let him leave so easily this time. But so what? In front of the emperor, he didn't care whether someone was good or bad. In the eyes of the great Zhou emperor, the only things that mattered were the power in his hands and the dragon throne beneath him. As for his daughter, she meant nothing to him. Just as Jiang Yuan was about to step through the gates of the Marquis' residence, a mocking voice rang out, well. Isn't this the wealthy Jiang Yuan? Why do you look so dejected? Did Princess Taiping torment you? Jiang Xing? Jiang Yuan frowned, an inexplicable disgust rising in his chest. At this moment, Jiang Xing looked to him like a cockroach in the house, disgusting simply by existing. I've no interest in talking to you. Princess Taiping is not as you imagine. With that, he turned to leave. But Jiang Xing, having finally caught a chance to mock Jiang Yuan, was unwilling to let it go. He stepped forward to block Jiang Yuan's path, his arrogance plain as he tilted his nose at him. Wait, did I say you could leave? And besides, it seems you've yet to understand your place in this household. As he spoke, he proudly pulled out 2 land deeds from his robe and waved them in front of Jiang Yuan. Look careful, Lighter, you know what these are? Jiang Yuan couldn't be bothered with such nonsense, so he gave a perfunctory reply. But instead of discouraging him, this only made Jiang Xing more excited. Hey, I told you to look carefully. Father has already entrusted me with the 2 shops in the eastern city. And I've already arranged a partnership with the Refined Cloth Guild. Tomorrow they'll officially open. Jiang Yuan, aren't you always so proud of how much money you can make? Then watch carefully as I trample you beneath my feet, step by step. As Jiang Xing spoke, a smug smile spread across his face. He could already picture Jiang Yuan crushed under his heel. But what he never expected was Jiang Yuan's reaction. Jiang Yuan remained eerily calm. He didn't even glance at the deeds in Jiang Xing's hand. He simply said lightly, good. Then work hard. I'm a bit tired, so I'll be going. Without waiting for a response, he turned and walked toward his courtyard. Watching his departing back, Jiang Xing froze in disbelief. What was wrong with Jiang Yuan today? Had Princess Taiping truly broken him? Damn it, he didn't even argue back. Clearly, I had the upper hand, so why do I feel so unsatisfied? Jiang Xing felt as though his fist had struck cotton. He had used all his strength, but there was no resistance, no satisfaction. It was like after a fierce sprint, asking a concubine, am I powerful? Only to receive a flat, perfunctory reply, wow, yes, you're amazing, Jiang Yuan, this is all your fault. Grinding his teeth, Jiang Xing's eyes burned with venomous hatred. Just you wait till I'll make my shops flourish and crush your wretched fragrant pavilion underfoot. Back in his courtyard, Jiang Yuan locked himself in his study. He sat alone at his desk. His gaze empty. The imperial family was indeed cold and heartless. Even after living 2 lives, with wisdom and ability beyond most men, he now realized that in the face of imperial power and destiny's crushing weight, he was still so small, so powerless. He could understand Princess Taiping's despair. He could feel the sorrow in her heart. But what of it? What difference did understanding make? He could do nothing. He was only the illegitimate son of a marquis, merely the owner of a cloth shop. He couldn't even fully control his own fate. How could he possibly change the fate of a princess, or a nation? This suffocating sense of powerlessness felt like an invisible net, binding him tightly. Creak, the study door opened. Jiang Yuan looked up and saw old Yan Lu carrying a cage. Inside was a gray rabbit, twitching its ears nervously. Well now, young master. What's the matter with you? You look pale, like you're lacking some vigor. Old Yan grinned, revealing several missing teeth. He set the cage on the desk and pulled out a chair for himself. So, what's troubling you? Tell me, might just have an idea for you. Jiang Yuan hesitated, but finally recounted what had happened that day at Princess Taiping's residence. After listening quietly, old Yan was silent for a while. Then he pointed at the rabbit in the cage. Look at this rabbit. Jiang Yuan glanced at it, puzzled. What about it? This rabbit looks timid, gentle, harmless, doesn't it? Jiang Yuan nodded. Yes, very docile. But young master, don't be fooled. If you corner a rabbit, even it will bite. Lifting his wine cup, old Yan swirled it gently. A sharp gleam flickered in his eyes. Think about it, if even a rabbit will bite when desperate, how much more so a person? Yes. Even a rabbit fights back when cornered, how could a living human not? The haze in Jiang Yuan's eyes cleared instantly, replaced with fierce resolve. Right now, he might be weak. But so what? He might not be able to interfere with Princess Taiping's fate. But if the same blade one day hovered over his own neck, would he bow his head and meekly accept death? Jiang Yuan shook his head firmly. No. Never. If that day came, he would resist with everything he had. Even if he couldn't win, he would tear a piece of flesh from his enemy. Yesha was that rabbit. Seeing Jiang Yuan's burden lift and his eyes reignite with determination, old Yen smiled in satisfaction. In his eyes, Jiang Yuan was a true genius. He could not allow such a genius to lose his light. As for Princess Taiping. After a moment of silence, old Yan's lips curled into a greedy grin. Young master, if you truly want to save her, there may be a way. You know the creed of our Heavenswell Society. So long as you have enough silver, we can make anything happen. Of course. It would cost no less than 100,000 taels. 100,000 taels of silver? A flicker of astonishment flashed in Jiang Yuan's eyes. Could the Tiandi Society really be this bold? For a mere 100,000 taels, they would dare to rob a princess of the realm? If they truly did such a thing, given the emperor's petty and narrow-minded nature, wouldn't he be furious to the point of explosion? But then again, the Tiandi Society's way of thinking was always strange, and their courage beyond measure. After all, in the previous life, they had even dared to assassinate the emperor. From that perspective, it wasn't too surprising that they would take on such a mission. Still, should he really ask the Tiandi Society to step in? Jiang Yuan hesitated for a moment, but quickly shook his head firmly. Many thanks, Elder Yen, for your willingness to help. But this matter I want to try handling it myself. Of course, if things turn dire, I'll have to ask for the Tiandi Society's aid. As he spoke, he pulled out a thick stack of banknotes from the drawer of his study. This is 100,000 taels in notes, consider it a deposit. Yan Laolu's eyelids twitched. He had never expected Jiang Yuan to spend such a fortune on a princess who had nothing to do with him. Could it be the rumors he'd heard were true? That after the guest was abducted by the princess, something unspeakable had transpired between them. And now the guest had fallen for her, hence his determination to rescue her? In Yan Laolu's mind, a tragic love story instantly began to take shape. But soon after, he remembered Su Muying. With her temperament, and as the proper, legitimate wife. If she ever found out about this, she surely would not accept it so easily. And thus, Yan Laolu added another character to his imagined tale, and in his head a dog-blooded love triangle drama vividly unfolded. Thinking of this, he let out a long sigh and heavily patted Jiang Yuan's shoulder. Guest, may fate be kind to you. Jiang Yuan? Su residence. When old General Su heard the butler's report, he was momentarily stunned. What did you say? Jiang Yuan himself came to see me, saying there's something important to discuss? The steward, too, wore a look of surprise. After hesitating a moment, he said softly, it seems the young master has been shaken. Yesterday I heard that the princess and the young lady abducted him to a separate courtyard. Ever since he returned, he has looked utterly dazed. A thoughtful expression crossed Su Xian's face, followed by a helpless sigh. This girl Muying grows more unruly by the day. Even if she is close friends with Princess Taiping, she should not meddle in this way. And she certainly shouldn't have dragged Jiang Yuan into it. Enough. Let me see for myself whether this son-in-law can bear it. Let him in. The steward nodded and quietly withdrew. Reception hall. Su Xian regarded Jiang Yuan with a smiling gaze and asked, my good son-in-law, what matter brings you to me today? Seated opposite, Jiang Yuan's eyes gleamed with intensity, though his expression was unusually calm. He looked at Su Xian and, after a moment of silence, asked directly, may I ask, father-in-law, was yesterday's affair with Mewing and Princess Taiping arranged by Mewing herself? Su Xian was taken aback, then sighed helplessly. Lifting his teacup for a sip, he said, "My son-in-law, that girl Mewing has been close to Taiping since childhood. As for Taiping..." At this, his face betrayed a touch of sorrow. "That child's nature isn't bad. It's only that the emperor has spoiled her beyond measure. Now that she must marry off to a foreign tribe, Mewing can't bear the thought of her suffering." Jiang Yuan nodded. Su Xian's words basically confirmed his suspicion. Yesterday's abduction at its core, it had been a scheme arranged by Su Mewing and Princess Taiping. They had wanted to use the excuse of Taiping having fallen in love, to force the emperor to relent. And for that, they had sacrificed him the fiancé. The thought left Jiang Yuan faintly displeased. After all, no one likes being used, even by his own betrothed. And besides, wasn't their plan far too naive? Did they really think that just because Princess Taiping had a beloved, the emperor would change his mind about the marriage alliance? What a joke! If the emperor had any regard for father-daughter affection, would he even be marrying her off to the barbarians in the first place? But there was still one puzzle. Su Xian clearly knew all of this, so why hadn't he intervened? What exactly was this deep and unfathomable father-in-law plotting? Jiang Yuan shook his head. Whatever his father-in-law's intentions, he had no way to fathom them now. Better to follow his own path. His resolve hardened, he looked at Su Xian and said earnestly, "Father-in-law, what would you have me do?" Su Xian was momentarily surprised, then chuckled and waved a hand. "This is your young generation's era. What place does an old man like me have meddling in such matters? But as for Taiping, her heart is not bad. If you can save her, why not try?" With that, everything was basically clear. Jiang Yuan now grasped Su Xian's stance, and his confidence swelled. Sit and wait for death? That was never his way. If lying low won't work, then he would crush everything head-on, let them all see what he was capable of. Unconsciously, Jiang Yuan clenched his fist, then declared, "Father-in-law, I have an immature idea. I intend to establish a comprehensive market at the border." A comprehensive market? A flicker of puzzlement crossed Su Xian's eyes. She did not quite understand Jiang Yuan's intention. But Jiang Yuan seemed prepared. He immediately explained, "Father-in-law, here's my thought. Though Great Zhou and later Jin are sworn enemies, clandestine trade between them never ceases: tea, porcelain, cloth, and so on. Surely you're aware of this?" Su Xian nodded, his eyes flashing with hatred. With a cold snort, he growled, "Those damned merchants truly deserving of death. They know full well of the blood feud between Great Zhou and later Jin, yet they risk their lives to profit from trade with them. What's worse, they're cunning as foxes. I've tried many times to catch them, but they always catch wind of it beforehand." Jiang Yuan nodded. To him, such things were hardly surprising. In Chinese history, borderland black markets had always existed. The court could never truly eradicate them, even the border garrisons themselves would take their cut. But Jiang Yuan had no intention of shutting them down. His plan was something else. After all, blocking is worse than guiding. "Father-in-law, my idea is actually very simple. Since the black market cannot be eradicated, why not bring it under our own control? The concept of an integrated market is essentially just that." Jiang Yuan's voice was calm, yet carried a quiet confidence. Su Xian's face changed drastically after hearing this. He suddenly stood up. "Son-in-law, do you realize what you are saying? This is like seeking skin from a tiger. Those barbarians live like beasts, savage and ruthless. And you want to do business with them? This is madness." Jiang Yuan had long anticipated this reaction. He smiled faintly and explained unhurriedly, "Father-in-law, I am well aware of the risks involved. But where there is risk, there is also opportunity, is there not? Right now, the treasury of Great Zhou is empty, and the border wars are endless. If trade can ease the pressure at the borders, wouldn't that serve two purposes at once? Moreover, Jiang Yuan paused, then lowered his voice. Through trade, we can also gather intelligence on the later gene. Only by knowing both ourselves and the enemy can we remain undefeated in battle. Su Xian's brows furrowed deeply. Clearly, he was still hesitant. But those barbarians are cunning. Do you really think they'll let us easily gather intelligence? And if they tamper with things and turn it against Great Zhou, what then? Jiang Yuan smiled with confidence. Father-in-law, have you forgotten what it is I deal in? The cloth in my hands is precisely what the later gene people need the most. As long as our cloth is of high quality and fairly priced, they will naturally flock to it. Besides, men all have desires. As long as we can satisfy those desires, they will inevitably work in our favor. In time, not only can we gather intelligence, but we can also use big data to analyze their movements. Big data? Su Xian was puzzled. This was a term he had never heard before. Jiang Yuan smiled mysteriously and explained, Father-in-law, so-called big data means we can deduce the later jin's intentions through changes in market demand. For example, if their demand for iron tools suddenly increases, that means they may be preparing for war. If their demand for grain suddenly spikes, it means they may be facing famine. Through this information, we can prepare in advance and respond to any sudden situation. After hearing this, Su Xian was utterly astonished. His eyes were full of amazement as he looked at Jiang Yuan. Son-in-law, you are truly a genius. In all my years, this is the first time I've heard such a brilliant idea. I will support you in this matter. The Grand General's Manor will also fully back you. Do whatever you must with no worries. Hearing this, Jiang Yuan was secretly delighted. With Su Xian's support, his plan of establishing an integrated market now faced almost no obstacles. It was just a matter of time. And his true goal was never merely to earn silver. After all, wasn't Princess Taiping soon to be married into the later gene? Within the borders of Great Zhou, attempting to intercept the princess would cause endless complications. But within later gene territory? If she disappeared on their turf, they couldn't possibly blame Great Zhou, could they? What's more, Jiang Yuan had an even deeper plan, to take this opportunity to establish an intelligence organization of his very own. Of course, such things couldn't be rushed. The most urgent task now was to form his own inner circle. Thinking this, Jiang Yuan spoke up, Father-in-law, I do have another request. Oh? Speak freely. Son-in-law. Su Xian was in high spirits, even his stern face softened with a faint smile. I wish to borrow some men from you. This matter will require your assistance. Su Xian pondered for a moment, then smiled. How many men do you want? 100. Just 100 will suffice. After some thought, Jiang Yuan raised a single finger. I'll give you 500. Su Xian waved his hand boldly, full of generosity. The truth was, though he no longer openly commanded troops, Su Xian had spent years campaigning across the land, cultivating countless loyal subordinates. Because of this, the true number of private soldiers he held was unknown. A mere 500 was nothing to him. However, it is inconvenient for me to hand over soldiers directly. How about this? Do you still have the Su family command token I gave you earlier? Jiang Yuan nodded and produced the token from his robe. With this token, you may mobilize a portion of the Su family's private soldiers. But remember, never abuse it, and above all, do not reveal your identity. Jiang Yuan nodded solemnly, full of gratitude. Thank you, father-in-law, for your support. I will not fail your expectations. Inside the rear hall of the Grand General's Manor, Jiang Yuan stood with his hands clasped behind his back, surveying rows of burly soldiers. Each was handpicked by Su Xian himself, every one of them formidable fighters. Yet Jiang Yuan's brows knit together slightly. Just these? He turned toward the steward beside him, his tone tinged with disappointment. No one else? The steward looked puzzled. Son-in-law, these are the most elite soldiers in the manor. Each one can fight 10 men alone. Are they not enough? Jiang Yuan shook his head. Not enough. Far from enough. What he wanted was not elites, but absolute loyalty and a hunger for battle. These Su family soldiers, no matter how strong, ultimately belonged to Su Xian, not to him. What he needed was a force entirely his own, one that would follow him through fire and death without hesitation. What sort of men does son-in-law desire, then? The steward asked in confusion. After some thought, Jiang Yuan asked, what about the veterans who have seen real battle? Those who have truly faced life and death, where are they now? The steward's face changed slightly, a trace of sorrow flickering in his eyes. Son-in-law, you may not know, on the battlefield, survival is 1 in 10. Those who return alive are but few. And among them, most bear wounds, some missing an arm, others a leg no longer fit for battle. Most of them live in hardship, burdened with injury and illness. I fear they cannot meet your requirements. At these words, Jiang Yuan's eyes suddenly lit up. Disabled veterans? They are exactly the ones I want. The steward was stunned, wondering if he had misheard. Son-in-law, what use could those disabled veterans possibly be? They have already lost their fighting strength. They can't serve in combat at all. Jiang Yuan smiled mysteriously. Who says disabled veterans are useless? They are the true heroes, the most precious treasure of all. I have my own plans for them. Pingle Lane, the poorest quarter of the capital. The houses here were dilapidated, and the air was filled with a foul stench. Jiang Yuan frowned. He had expected the veterans' living conditions to be poor, but he hadn't imagined them to be this bad. Who would have thought that right under the sun of heaven's very eyes, in the heart of the imperial capital, there would exist a place no better than a slum? Steward Su, walking beside him, stole a glance at Jiang Yuan. Seeing his expression, he secretly thought to himself that this noble son-in-law might turn back and retreat. After all, pampered young masters from Marquis households could hardly endure such sights. Yet to his surprise, Jiang Yuan did not retreat. Instead, he strode forward with firm steps. A flicker of astonishment flashed in the steward's eyes, and he couldn't help but sigh inwardly. This son-in-law truly was no ordinary person. They wound through several alleys before finally stopping at a crumbling courtyard. Half of the courtyard wall had collapsed, and the place inside looked desolate. Steward Su stepped forward and knocked. Slowly, the door creaked open, revealing a one-armed old man. His face was gaunt, his clothes tattered, but his eyes were still sharp and piercing. When he saw it was Steward Su, the light in his gaze dimmed, and his posture bent into weariness. Old Su, what brings you here? Go back and tell the general, we old fellows can still scrape by with a bit of food. He needn't trouble himself with us. But Steward Su did not respond to that. Instead, he gestured toward Jiang Yuan and introduced, Old Su, this is the general's son-in-law, young Master Jiang. He has come to visit our old brothers. The one-armed Su froze for a moment, then his face lit up with joy. So it's the son-in-law. Please, come in, come in. He quickly ushered them inside and shouted into the yard, brothers. Come out. The general's son-in-law has come to see us. At his call, from the broken-down houses shuffled out more than a dozen veterans. Every one of them bore crippling wounds, some had lost an arm, some a leg. But their eyes were still sharp, like unsheathed blades. Seeing Jiang Yuan, they all leaned on their crutches and, trembling, bowed deeply. Subordinates pay respects to the young master-in-law. Jiang Yuan looked at these broken bodies and could not stop a wave of sorrow from rising in his heart. These men had once shed blood and given their lives for great Zhou. And now? They had no roof to shield them from the wind and rain. While those so-called nobles of the court lived in luxury in the capital, basking in endless wealth. No. Things should not be this way. A glint of anger flashed in Jiang Yuan's eyes. He pulled Steward Su aside, lowering his voice. Steward Su, how can these veterans be left in such misery? Does the court not care? The steward gave a bitter smile, sighed, and shook his head. Young master, you may not know. The imperial treasury is empty. Wars have drained it for years. Where would there be spare funds to care for these old soldiers? The fact that they can still eat and survive is already a blessing amid misfortune. And that is only because the general quietly sends help to them from time to time. Hearing this, Jiang Yuan's heart tightened with unease. He frowned, suspicion flashing in his eyes. But isn't the Su household quite wealthy? I remember that Mu Ying's dowry alone was 100,000 taels of silver. The steward's face stiffened with embarrassment. With a forced smile, he shook his head and explained, "Young master, you misunderstand. That 100,000 taels. That was everything the Su household had saved through years of thrift and hardship. For the young lady's marriage, the general put forth his entire fortune. Think about a general's household is large, its daily expenses immense. And on top of that, he has to secretly support these veterans. In truth, life is already very tight." Jiang Yuan felt as though waves were crashing in his chest. Never had he imagined that the mighty General Su's residence was in such straits. That the 100,000 taels were the entirety of the Su family's wealth. It overturned everything he had assumed. In his mind, a man of Su Xian's rank and power should not be as rich as a kingdom, but at the very least, fabulously wealthy. But reality was cruel. In that moment, Jiang Yuan's respect for Su Xian deepened even further. He could now truly imagine how much the old general had sacrificed for these veterans. A surge of indescribable emotion rose in Jiang Yuan's chest. He silently swore, he would make sure these men who had bled for their country could live with dignity again. "Brothers, you are the heroes of Great Zhou." Jiang Yuan's voice was loud and full of reverence. "You shed blood and sacrificed your bodies, carving out great military glory." At his words, the veterans' cloudy eyes lit with a faint spark. They tried to stand straight, leaning on each other for support. Jiang Yuan quickly stepped forward, stopping them. "Please, your health is what matters most. There's no need for formalities. I came today simply to see you, to see how you live. If there are hardships, speak them. I will do everything in my power to help." At this, the old soldier's eyes filled with tears. Never had they thought that the general's son-in-law would care for them so sincerely. One-armed Su was so moved he could hardly speak, only wiping his tears again and again. "Young master, you are truly a good man. For us old wrecks, to meet someone like you, what a blessing beyond measure." Jiang Yuan nodded, but his heart only ached more. How much would it cost to feed these men decently? A few copper coins at most. And yet the court would not spend even a penny. "Brothers, I have an idea. I'd like your opinion." Jiang Yuan spoke slowly, outlining his plan. "I want to establish a trading hub at the frontier, to conduct commerce with the later Jin. This hub could not only earn silver but also gather intelligence on the enemy. I need a team to help me build it. Would you be willing? Don't worry, I will provide food and shelter. I will never send you to die." At his words, the veterans were in an uproar. They had thought their lives were already over. That they would simply wait for death in this desolate courtyard. But now, the young master-in-law was offering them new purpose. At once, their cloudy eyes widened with light. "Young master, I am willing. Though I've lost an arm, I can still wield a blade."